All right.
What is up, everybody?
What's up, folks? Welcome to Monday Night Live. Got a fresh piece of gum in, so it's kind of
got that bubble gum in.
It's throwing off all that flavor, like boom.
It's like when that bass hits.
That's right.
Or for me yesterday when that catfish hit.
Did you catch you a good catfish yesterday?
Oh God, it was bad. It was the best bite all day. Let's just put it that way.
Yeah, man, those suckers are fool you for sure.
Got some good guests. Got some good guests tonight. It's us. We got some comments already rolling in.
Yeah, that's nice. I'm gonna go back and check them out.
703 Ken Staniford.
Good dude, man. He's been watching a lot of my videos, leaves some of the best comments, really long and drawn out. Good ledge fisherman. I can't remember where. I want to say he's a Carolina guy. I'm not sure. Ken, where are you from? I forgot. I apologize, but he's always catching big ones off of ledges.
Well, ledge hopping a ridge worm is killing it for me right now, day and night. So
ridge worm. What's ridge worm's a new one?
I don't know what.
See, that's what's cool about this stuff is as people start leaving their baits, you know what's working for them. There's going to be a lot of this stuff I've never even heard of. It's probably a local kind of worm,
right?
Imagine it's a big worm with ridges on it. Jeremiah Caldwell just won a tournament yesterday on a 10-inch black power worm, and it's hard to beat a power worm. Something about that scent.
Something about simple too.
Simple, yeah. I throw a power worm around. I throw the small, like a 7-inch power worm around a lot, but the 10-inch one I don't throw. I do throw it, but I just don't throw it as much as I throw like an old monster. But man, I don't know why.
What's your favorite color, old monster?
Plum.
Plum.
Yeah. What about you?
Yeah. I hate to admit it, but it's a plum.
Yeah.
I mean, whatever works. And that's, we kind of got a bait lineup for you guys tonight, kind of talk about some of our summer patterns, but that's the one that I didn't throw in the mix. I'm sure you got one.
I'm sure I got some stuff over there. I can dig through it. Got Andy on here. Hey, Andy, we are waiting for Steven to send those t-shirts before we get your products out to you. I shot him a text Saturday, but I didn't realize he was fishing and winning another tournament on Champlain. He just won the second. He won the first CBS, and then he won the second CBS.
Yeah,
there's 4 tournaments. He's
killing it up there.
So he's on fire. So I'm sure when he got back to work today, he was trying to play catch up. So I expect him to shoot me a text here tomorrow or something and get that stuff on the way. And as soon as we get those t-shirts, I will get your merchandise out to you. And we're going to do another giveaway tonight. Same thing. If you guys are new to the channel, we're going to be doing what we call the Sasquatch giveaway. And we didn't pick a number because we don't have a guess.
I got one.
You got one?
Lockdown.
Okay.
Lockdown.
Will you write it on my back?
There we go. Sharpie on the shirt.
Okay, got it. Oh my gosh. Look at this guy, Tom, my man. Oh, dude. Walmart will suck all your juice out of you.
Yes, it will.
If you stay in there too long.
Hey, but there's a positive to Walmart. If you can, Tom, run over to the bait section, the sporting goods section. Every once in a while, you'll find a really, really good deal hanging around over there. And a lot of times, some of the baits that I have lined up here tonight, you can get at a fairly decent price over there when push comes to shove. So,
and they usually have a decent supply of like the staples. Zoom. They always got baby brush hogs.
Yep.
Always got finesse worms.
Yep.
That kind of stuff. Jay Beff is in there. What's up, bro? Good to see ya. See, Andy said he's been pond fishing with a crappie jig. Muddy water bait, catching bass. About a 4-pound catfish. I bet that was fun.
I bet so, especially if you're crappie fishing.
Yeah, those catfish, man, they like that little stuff like that. I got about a 4-acre pond back here, and I'll take my fly rod out there and just throw a little 32nd ounce crappie jig on a float, or I'll just strip a little black woolly booger, and I catch it. Almost every time I go out there, I hook up with a 4 to 8 pound catfish. Most of the time they break me off. Every once in a while I get one in after about 20-minute fight, and your line's all slimed up. It's nasty. You gotta cut it off. Let's see. You go down and check all the rest of these comments, and we'll start talking about a little bit of fishing report stuff, and then we'll dive into some of our favorite baits.
I like it, Alan.
Brown.
I like it.
Yeah.
I like to hear that.
Yeah, you're speaking our language, Alan.
I think we're
close.
so close right now.
Yeah. Where you at, Alan? Our grass is kind of behind here, and it's starting to get there.
Like we had a lot of high water this year around here, which pushed it back, and our lakes haven't really got the summer drawdown that other lakes have. But we have, like Gabe said, we're close. We're 2-3 weeks. We're one good cold day or two away from it really going off. I haven't the few mats that are up, I haven't heard much activity in. Every once in a while you hear a few bluegill popping, but the weather's got to be right at this point in the year. We have to have that perfect weather event, rainy, misty, nasty day, and it really fires them up, just like every other thing. But for the grass, it's real close.
Well, there's starting to be some bait in the grass now, though.
Not like what we need though. We need that full on popcorn grass. But
yeah, it's trending that way for sure. Hey, what's up, Mario? Good to see you. Yeah, last week was really good. If you guys missed a playback last week with Stephen Estes, there's a lot of good information, a lot of good electronics information. I was actually listening to it today just to I've listened to it twice. But there's a lot of stuff about the different forward-facing sonars, what kind of wire to use for running graphs, trolling motors, just a lot of, techie electronic type stuff. So I
think the big takeaway for me is how great of a guy Steven is.
He's a good dude.
I mean, not to throw a shameless plug out, but man, that guy tells it like it is. It's not going out there and telling us that Lowrance is the best or Hummingbird's the best or Garmin's the best. It's going out there and giving us real answers from a real guy that all he started that whole business was so he could go to Champlain a couple more times a year.
Just to get gas money.
Yeah, gas money and pay for his hotel up there. So he's a real dude just like us. He's a real bass head. So
yeah, because he sells all the main manufacturers. But
the big three. Yeah.
There was definitely some stuff there were products from certain manufacturers that he favored over others. And it wasn't like it was strictly one manufacturer. If he didn't like it, he would tell you, which was pretty cool. So he's Bass Fishing Electronics. He's got his website. You can find him on Facebook and all that stuff. But if you guys are in the market for electronics, check him out first. He's up in New Hampshire, so they do not have sales tax, and he has free shipping. So if you're gonna make a big purchase for your boat, you can save several $100s just by that no tax thing.
Hey, and if you're in the Northeast, he's doing some installs too.
That's right.
I know he's a couple months out, but we're in the Northeast. I bet those guys are winding down up there. Starting to get some cooler temperatures, which I would love to have a little cooler temperatures, and I know you would too. But their winter is fast approaching, where ours is not even here yet.
Yeah, we still got a ways off. Dave said he is still dragging a Carolina rig and a football jig around on Lake of Egypt with good success. Main lake points and grassline edges. If you want to fight the crowd, appreciate that, Dave.
Dave, I'm with you. I hate to say it, but as a bass fisherman, I'm late to the Carolina game. I've never been
late. It's only been out since like the 60s.
I know. I'm a few decades behind, but I'm unfortunately I've never been a real big pusher of the Carolina rig or puller of the Carolina rig, I should say. But I started throwing it this weekend, and had a lot of success on it.
Yeah, so it works, man. It works. I mean, it just takes a good day putting it in your hand. But so let's have a moment of silence for my final 7-foot medium Veritas. This is all that's left of it. I broke it yesterday, so this is one of my favorite rods. You'll see the video. Crazy, but I got the fish in, so that's all that matters.
If you're hard up, I do charge a little bit of a rental fee, but I still got 4 or 5 of them hanging around the house.
I might see if you want me to get rid of one. What's up, Billy? Good to see you in here. Stephanie, good to see you in here. Catch up on these comments, and we'll get into this stuff. Fishing with Dino, Cody. Did you go to Table Rock yet, Cody? I know you were supposed to make that trip. Frankie,
all the way from Florida.
What's up, Frankie? Like I mentioned earlier, we're waiting on Steven to send those shirts, and I'll get your stuff down to you. Good question. What's going on at Wren Lake right now? Probably real shallow moving baits. I don't know. I don't get up to Wren Lake at all. I've been there once in the last 2 years. Mike Russell just fished a BFL there not too long ago, so he could probably tell you what's going on. I think he was throwing Carolina rig, actually. Caught some fish.
My experience on Ren moving into the fall, which we're a couple months away from the bite that I've experienced over there, is moving baits, riprap, fishing shallow cover, and not giving up on the shallow cover that you're fishing. So I know that doesn't help you out, Mario, but it's Ren Lake's kind of a thorn in my side.
Yeah, it's a lot of guys catch them on crankbaits. Just shallow running crankbaits, just cover the right areas over and over and over. And this guy right here, man, it's a fab. It's good to see you. Full armor bassin from way back. It seems like forever since I started seeing him, but he's been popping up a little bit lately. He's up in Virginia. He catches those big old snakeheads and big bass on frogs.
Billy, 12-hour shift. I don't envy that at all.
Jeez. Oh, yeah. Shout out to Mike Russell. He finished 9th up at Shelbyville.
Sweet.
No, wait, Galconda. I'm sorry. Smith and Pool.
Ooh, that's even tougher.
Yeah. Yep. Can't tell you what he caught him on. He swore me to secrecy. Frankie says he has a tournament on Harris Chain yesterday, and he could not get them to bite anything. I did everything. From top water to worm. That happens, man. That happens. It's
why they call it fishing and catching.
I was going to say that.
I'm still trying to find that catching license, guys. So if you guys find it, hit me up.
Ray Walsh says he got his rear handed to him last weekend on a plum old monster on Wren Lake. There you go. There's some good information right there. I mean, that old monster just
catches them everywhere. Kentucky Lake on the ledges to.
Is that where you learned about it first? From Kentucky Lake? Yeah.
That was a staple down there. And, we didn't have a lot of good ledge tournaments when we fished the BFLs down there, but met some really good guys fishing those BFLs, and, call them on a Saturday or Friday afternoon and see if you could hop in a boat with them on a weekend. I mean, that's how I learned how to ledge fish.
Mm-hmm.
I met a lot of, and I know you did too. I met a lot of great guys fishing those BFLs. We may get into that later tonight, but that was, if you want to get your feet wet or learn a new lake, I mean, that's in my opinion, that's the way to do it. Unless you got thicker skin than I do, you can do like Steven said last week and just
jump right in.
Just jump right in the front of the boat and go. So
Tom says he's in the Walmart checkout line. Ice cream is going to melt. Okay. Let's talk. We got a lot of people in here. This is awesome. Todd's in here. DJ, what's up, DJ? Doug from Auto Trieve. He can give me a WAP report. I should have probably called him earlier. Swim bait's working good for smallmouth today on Kentucky Lake. That's from Darius. Larry says, don't go to Wren Lake. Kobe Baker fishing. What's up, bro? Cody said he fished Table Rock last week, 25 to 30 feet deep. Drop shot, shaky heads, jigs, wobble heads, shallow bite crankbait was working too. So it looks like he had a lot of options. Top to bottom. Andy says he uses K9 5-pound crappie braid, and you can get those cats to the bank. I used some of that K9 fluorocarbon. I bought some of that probably 3-4 years ago, and it's pretty decent stuff, really. It's cheaper. It's like $14 for 300 yards. Stephanie said she caught a 5-pound flathead this Friday. It was a monster. Thought it was an awesome bass. Very disappointed. Yeah, Stephanie, wait till you do that in a tournament when you start fishing tournaments.
Twice.
It's a heartbreaker.
One day in a tournament. And thought all the areas that I had lined up were 100% bass, and they were two of the prettiest flatheads I've ever caught. Though.
Oh, yeah, they're beautiful fish.
I know.
It's heartbreakers. DJ, man, I hope you get out in the water, bro. Jay says best Berkeley power worm, liver red. They've dropped it, so Hawgz Custom Baits is reinventing the color. Nice, a new exciting color coming out from Hawgz.
I'm excited about that. That brought up something that reminds me back in the day, and I looked at them at Academy a couple days ago when I was in there, and they didn't have it in the old monster, so I didn't pick it up. But the old red shad,
yeah,
I mean, that was a staple back in the day for me. That was my worm.
So there's an old monster, guys. You hear us talking about it. I mean, probably most of you guys have seen the old monster, but it's just a big old ribbon tail worm. This is June bug.
That's in the 10.5, or is that the 12?
That is a 10.5, 10.5 on Monster, made by Zoom Bait Company. If you haven't fished this worm, go out and buy a pack. Plum is probably arguably the best all-around color. It works in just about any water conditions. Like Jonathan was saying, red shad's a good one. I like the June bug. You know, sometimes they like the June bug better than the plum. And then green pumpkin. I don't throw a green pumpkin that much in that worm for some reason. I don't throw green pumpkin worms all that much, except a finesse worm or a shaky head worm.
Yep.
The bigger worms, not so much. But there's
hold on before you move on. What's your setup for that? Let these folks know.
Okay. So let's see. Lately, man, I move stuff around because I break stuff all the time.
I'm gonna help him out so we don't break anymore.
I think I got it. Sorry, I got like 6 rods out there. I just grabbed a bunch of crap. So I've been throwing the bigger worm. This is just a 7-foot medium heavy loose custom light rod. I got a bunch of the custom light rods. Really like them. This rod, it's kind of beefy. You know, it's a Magnum. What are they calling it? It's a Magnum bass is what they're calling it. So it's got more backbone to it. It's a heavier rod. So it's really solid on a long cast. You got a lot of meat there, but it's got enough tip to cast that out. And I throw on a 1/4 ounce. I throw a 1/4 ounce tungsten weight a lot. But I need to start throwing 5/16 because Mr. Russell's saying that there's some magic things that happen when you throw an old monster on a 5/16 ounce weight. I don't know if you've ever. I'll break that theory down to you sometime. It's pretty interesting.
I'm pretty simple when it comes to weights. I'm like 1/4, 3/8, half.
Well, 5/16 is that in between. So he's swearing that. And once you try the 5/16,
we may have to break that down.
That's all you ever need. I don't know. That's a bold statement, but I'm not scared to try it. But I like 15-pound test and then just a 7-to-1 gear ratio reel. Most of my reels are 7-to-1. And I just like a 5/0 EWG hook. You know, it seems to work for me. I mean, is that kind of what you're throwing?
A lot is similar. I throw mine on a 7.4 heavy, and they don't make the rod anymore, but I throw that on that Quantum G-Force. It was a Gerald Swindle Signature Series rod, and I think Gabe's got one here.
Yeah, so this is the G-Force rod.
That's a 7.2.
It's a 7.2.
So that's a 7.2 medium heavy. I throw it on the
spin it around so they can see the front of it, the G-Force, like spin it around like that.
Right there.
There you go.
Sorry about that.
Yeah, Quantum G-Force. It's a pretty good rod. I mean, it was like $99.
Yeah, it was like $100. It was a great price point. Probably not the most sensitive rod that you're going to buy, but for the price point, it was a good buy for me. And I've just, for me, it's getting used to a rod, finding one that you kind of gravitate towards. Before that, it was a 7.3 Kistler, and I really like that rod too. Still have that rod. It was that one's just a little bit lighter, so less fatigue throughout the day. Where he throws 15, I throw 20. I like 20 Cigar and Vizex. And same thing, 5/0 EWG, got to. With usually, it depends on where I'm fishing at and how I'm fishing, but usually 1/4, 3/8 is my go-to weight on that. So if we're fishing, Kentucky Lake ledges, I'll bump it up to a half, just if they're ripping current. But most of the time, that's my setup on an old monster worm. And a lot of it, for our 10 boats that we fish out of, I say it a lot, but I don't always do it. A lot of times you only have 4 or 5 rods. So that 20-pound line, 5/0 hook covers a big gamut of, if I want to rip that worm off, I'm fishing out deep. If I want to rip it off and I want to throw a beaver or a brush hog or something like that, it's a really good all-around setup. You can go flip cover with it, or you can go fish out deep with it. What else? What are you digging in over there?
Man, I got a cool worm. I just remembered. You gotta keep talking.
Okay, I gotta keep this rolling. So we were talking about shaky heads, all of that tonight. One thing that I throw, and I know Gabe throws this a lot. He's probably the one that really turned me on to, but it's I just throw a 1/4 ounce and this is a homemade one. This is one that I make. Let's see if I can get it up there. Black hat, maybe. There it is. So little 3/8, quarter-ounce shaky head. It's got a pretty stout hook in it. Light wire, but
We ain't gonna be able We're back. We're back. Sorry about that. Our internet went out, man. Charter, Spectrum. Man, it's been every day our internet has been going out. I don't know what the deal is. It's super frustrating. It's the first time it's ever went out on a live stream. So I appreciate you guys sticking on here and super apologize for that. So you're talking about shaky head, right?
shaking
We'll just
heads.
jump right back up in.
Yeah. Did you get the worms that you're looking for?
Yeah. Oh,
Perfect.
Yeah.
Perfect. So shaking head. I know you throw a shaky head a lot, and you're probably the one that taught me how to throw a shaky head. So again, I hate that we had some technical difficulties here, but I don't know how much you guys heard. But straight tail worm, green pumpkin, that's my color. I always dip the tail in chartreuse. Usually it's a spike it or garlic scent. To me, the scent really doesn't matter. I think it's the chartreuse tip. This guy right here, the one turned me onto that. We were at Egypt one day. I don't know if you remember this or not, but he's throwing the shaky head out there. He's getting probably 4 to 5 to 1 bites on me, and I'm not catching anything. I dipped that tail, and it was like instant.
Yeah,
instant
that was
bites.
in Egypt, right?
Yep.
You said that?
Yep.
Yeah.
But mine's usually a quarter ounce or 3/16 or 3/8, excuse me, head. I throw a little bit bigger shaky head than most people. I'm not much of a finesse fisherman. This is about as finessey as I get as a 6.5 inch worm on a shaky head. A lot of times I'll throw a 1/2 ounce shaky head on a football screw lock jig head, another one that I make myself. And I throw a big, like 5 or 6 inch Cinco on there.
Shotgun, man.
Shotgun shell. That's
Yeah.
exactly right. I was just gonna say that. I had a
Kenny.
guy from down at Kentucky Lake that taught me that. I don't know why he called it a shotgun shell, but it stuck with me. So if you ever hear me talking about shotgun shell, that's what I'm talking about.
So check this out. This is made by Charmer Baits Company. I fish a lot of Charmer tubes, but I bought the last order I had, the tube order. I bought this big old stanky nasty worm. I don't even know how big it is, but
You can't even fit on the screen. You have to back up.
it's a Mondo. Let me grab one of the old monsters and just show you the comparison of the two.
I mean, that's a good, what, 2
3
inches
yeah,
longer?
Like that. It's a big old worm. Haven't thrown it yet, but I was like, I just got to buy that just to have it.
I like it.
It's a big old nasty one. And that's something that, if you want to throw something a little bit different, you either go Mondo or small. Back to the finesse shaky head stuff. Like Jonathan was saying, I throw a shaky head a lot. I've actually got away from it for a while, and then I'm starting to get back into it a little bit. I throw it a ton in the wintertime, like when I really need a bite when it's cold, even cold water. The shaky head is just a phenomenal bait. I don't think I brought. Yeah, I did. This is the one. If you're going to fish one shaky head, in my opinion, and you just want to get some bites, and you can catch some big fish on it too, but my go-to is this little Zoom finesse worm. This is a 5-inch finesse worm. I like to throw it. This is a 1/4 ounce. A lot of times I'll throw it on an 1/8 ounce, just depending on how deep I'm fishing. Obviously, if there's suspended fish around, I've done this many times. Throw it on an 1/8 ounce, and it falls a little bit slower. Like Lake Gerardo around here. There's a small lake in our area called Lake Gerardo. It's got standing timber. You can throw this little worm on an 1/8 ounce shaky head and around the standing timber, and those fish that are related to that standing timber will grab it on the way down. But if you have a 1/4 ounce, sometimes they'll grab it. It's more of a reaction strike, but sometimes you have to drop down to that 1/8 ounce. But this right here, watermelon candy, is just killer. I've never been to a place where they wouldn't bite this, and I had to break this out yesterday. I caught some fish yesterday. I went over to Baldwin Lake, and it was super tough over there. I don't know what the fish population's like over there, but tons and tons of bait. But I just kept downsizing. I broke this out and started catching some fish. But like he was saying, there's a lot of good shaky head worms out there. The Zoom trick worm is something that everybody uses. What is it? That T-Mac worm that's by Paka.
Yeah.
Who makes that?
Netbait.
Yeah. That's a really good one. Hawgz Custom Bait makes a really good one that I've been fishing a lot. Let me see if I can find any of those. I'm about out of them. I've been using quite a bit of them. There's the baby finesse worm by Strike King is a really good one. Caught a lot of fish on that.
While you're digging, I'm going to talk about my shaky a little bit.
Go ahead, man.
I don't know if you guys can see that. I pulled the worm off of it here. But you notice there's not a screw lock on that. And that's something that I think it was David Dudley, if I'm not mistaken. He talked about, because I always threw a screw lock. Football head screw lock was my go-to. But a lot of that screw lock will take up some of that gap of that hook. Comes in right here. And it doesn't seem like it would be that big of a deal. But when I switched to this shaky head hook, I won't say I had 100% hookup ratio, but my goodness, when they bite it, they're coming in the boat unless they shake it, unless they throw it. But that hook, without that gap there, it just seems like I peg them more. They're always at the top of the roof of their mouth. I don't have a lot of lost fish. And I'm not saying it's not in my head, because as a bass fisherman, a lot of things are in our head. But closing that, basically giving that hook a bigger gap instead of having a screw lock sticking out right here, and it's only 1/4 inch, but we're playing a game of inches anyway, and I'll take that 1/4 inch extra hook gap that I can get on my shaky head. So it's nothing special that I make, guys. Anybody can go out and buy the molds that I'm pouring. It's just a do it mold, and for me, it saved me a ton of money. Not being just a small time guy, not having bait sponsors and all this stuff, but I can throw that shaky head and I can lose it, and I don't feel so bad. And don't have a $5 pack of.
Until you buy the auto tree. Once you buy an auto tree, you will not lose that shaky head. I'm
There
telling
we
you,
go.
that sucker. I've only lost 2 things, and I've got snagged like probably 30 times.
Right?
I lost 2 things. It's crazy.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it's worth its weight in gold. But I second that with the screw lock. A lot of people use a screw lock, and I do too sometimes. But I prefer the one without the screw lock. Now, the advantage of a screw lock is it doesn't pull down. You can fish that worm for a long time, but that's also a disadvantage because that when a fish bites that worm, if it stays tight, you know, like, let me see this. That screw lock's going to hold it right here. Okay. If you've got this regular keeper, that worm will actually slide down and it opens up that gap a little bit more. And I mean, I really think that it makes a difference. Now, is it going to make a difference every time? No. Can you still catch them with the screw lock? 100%. But
there is one trick to that screw lock, though. And I saw somebody post this the other day. And I heard about it a couple years ago. I just kind of kept it under wraps. But since it's out in the public now, if you take your screw lock and you cut like 1 or 2 turns off of it with like a pair of side cutters or your needle nose, and you only have 1 screw on there, you may bust a couple noses out of worms, but it's going to pull off a lot easier. And it's going to increase that what we talked about a while ago, that gap between here and there. It's going to increase that gap again. We're only talking 1/4 inch, 1/8 inch, guys, but that gap is huge when it comes to getting those fish in. Stephanie, I didn't want to miss your comment here. I saw a comment come in a while ago. Let's see, where's it at?
Here's the Hawgz.
Well,
this is the Hawgz 6 1/4. This is a great.
That's a fat one too.
It's fat. It's got flat side. It's a great worm. I've been catching some fish on this lately. I know Jay catches a lot of fish on this.
That would work really good on that 1/2 ounce.
It works good on a 1/4 ounce too. Yeah. They don't have. I don't think there's any salt in this at all. It's not quite a last text buoyancy, but it has a lot more action in the water than a lot of the other worms. But that's a great shaky head, and you can put anything on a shaky head. Baby brush hog is a good one. A speed crawl is a good one.
Anything, any soft plastic. I mean, you could go. I mean, as crazy as a beaver. I wouldn't because there's too much meat there. But anything
you can on a big one, on like a mag.
Yeah, mag shaky head. Anything that's got, like that brush hog thin body, kind of like a worm body, like we're talking about. Anything that's got a body like that, I'll put on a shaky head with great success. Stephanie, to answer your question, and you throw a shaky head more than I do, but she said, JB, you use that in really dirty water. I do not. It's for me, it's more of a stain to clear water technique for me. If I'm throwing in dirty water, I'm typically throwing up really, really shallow, and everything that I fish shallow either has grass or wood in it, and I am not throwing a shaky head in grass or wood. I think there's a lot better techniques to throw, whether it be a big, 1/2 ounce jig, 3/8 ounce jig, flipping a tube, flipping any kind of soft plastic. That's what I'm going to do. But when that water is really dirty, you got to think those fish are going to try to find an edge every single time. They're not going to be sitting out in 15, 20 foot of water on a hump. Not to say that you can't catch them out there, but most of the time those fish that are out deep, if we have a muddy water event, they are going to push shallow. They're going to find the nearest edge, which is either a bank, a piece of cover that's relatable to the bank. And you got to think, with all that rainwater that came in that made that water muddy, it's providing a lot of more nutrients, a lot more forage for bait, which is what the bass are going to eat. So anytime we have muddy water, I'm going shallow, and I'm going to either throw a reaction bait or I'm going to flip something black and blue, some dark color. Now, in the spring of the year, I will throw a crawl or a crawl tube, which is made by
Big Bite Baits.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. But I'll throw that in green pumpkin. So I not always won't throw a dark color in dirty water, but I'm going to dip the 2 pinchers in an orange or a chartreuse to give it a little extra something.
Yeah, exactly. I'll throw a shaky head in dirty water, but it'll be black, like a black trickworm or something. But like Jonathan said, I usually go to something else. I heard somebody say a while back, just relating to what Jonathan was saying about the bass looking for a hard edge to rest up against. It's kind of like if you were in the middle of a room and somebody shut the light off, you're going to stand there for a little bit. The next thing you know, you're going to find yourself trying to find the wall and you're going to put your back against the wall. You're going to find a hard edge. It's security. You know, nothing can come in from behind you. And that's kind of what a bass does.
Survival of the fittest.
They're natural hiders anyway. They're ambush predators. So they like to be up against something. And the dirtier the water, usually the tighter that they're going to be up against that cover, whatever form of cover it is, whether it's a rock, it's a brush pile, it's a lay down, a stump, dock posts. They're going to be up against it. Dino's Fishing with Dino says, have you ever tried the JJ's Magic? Have you?
Yes.
Yeah, I have. And I use the Spike It pins and the Spike It dye.
I have no, it's not apples and oranges for me. It's oranges and oranges. It's dye. I know that some guys are brand loyal on it. I'll throw whatever I can find the color that I'm looking for in. I bought some JJ's Magic a couple years ago because I was looking for, I think it was orange. And the closest thing that I could find was the methylate, which is more like a paint color. And unfortunately, this guy's colorblind. So methylate, orange, it doesn't matter to me. It wasn't the color that I was looking for when it came out of the package. I had to have my wife tell me what color it was. So it was not orange. And so that was I still use it, but it's not my go-to. My go-to is usually a Spike It. And I keep 3 bottles on my boat at all times. Chartreuse, orange, and another bottle of chartreuse just in case that other one blows up on me.
I used to mess with blue.
I got some blue.
Like when I fished flukes a lot, I just touched the tail with that darker blue.
Yep.
I don't know if it made a difference. It made a difference to me.
I know a lot of guys get crazy. They'll take I got a fluke bait here, but they'll take a fluke and they'll put an orange belly on it. And I think a lot of that, we talked about earlier, I think a lot of that's up here and not in the fish's mind. Because if you're around the fish and they're hungry, they're going to eat.
Yeah. I'll take a Spike It pin and put a little line of chartreuse on the side of it.
Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, that's like a threadfin shad.
Mm-hmm. So check this out, man. Ken is from Tennessee, and he's actually fishing a tournament right now. He says he's got 2 in the box, 7+ pounds, and a ridge worm on a 1/2 ounce screw Shaky. So this is awesome, man. We got somebody out there listening to us rant about fishing, and they're right in the middle of Monday nighter?
Yeah.
Nice.
Earlier, he said something about his boat lights went out. As soon as our stream went down, right before that, his boat lights went out.
It could be like a solar flare. I mean, somebody said it was a Sasquatch shutting down a live stream.
I hope your boat lights are back on, Ken. And I think I saw that it was just a 2-fish tournament. So keep up the good work.
Sitting pretty good, man. Stephanie, is a pin or liquid scent better? I haven't been using the actual bottled scent because it kind of started as a co-angler. When I started fishing BFLs as a co-angler, I'd find that when you took that little bottle, Spike It, somehow it always leaks out. I don't care what you do. And then you put it in a Ziploc bag and sometimes it'll still leak out. And then you got to reach into the bag and get it out and you get it all over your hands. So I kind of got into the markers and they're stinky. They work great. You can be more accurate. You can put just a little bit if you want. And it doesn't matter. If the wind's blowing, you just don't have to worry about it as much. So the pins are the way to go for me.
For me, I still use both. Typically, just like Gabe said, pins if I'm in somebody else's rig. That's a must. I don't even like taking.
We said Sasquatch. I knew it was going to happen. I did say Sasquatch.
Geez.
Boy, these guys are on it.
They are on it tonight.
I said, that's awesome. You got the number in your head, right?
Yeah, I do.
Okay.
I do. We'll go back through it here in a little bit.
Okay.
You got me all off track here.
What are we talking about? Spike It pins, right?
Spike It pin. So I'm a pin if I'm in somebody else's boat. I don't really like taking any of that with me in somebody else's boat, even if it's a pin, because my fear is it's going to explode. It's going to get all over their stuff. And if you're in a brand new boat, and it's not, especially in the BFLs, you may not know that guy. And that's the last conversation that I want to have is that I just spilled, 4 ounces of Spike It all over
brand
your
new
seats.
boat carpet.
Yeah.
Got a brand new 2021 Phoenix 921.
Vexus.
It's got Vexus. Yeah. This is a really good question. So these are the questions that are not so black and white. There's a lot of gray area in there. So she says, do you think it's the length or profile that works better on the bigger worms you showed earlier? So she's talking about, say, the finesse shaky head worm versus a 7-inch, and then even like the 10.5-inch old monsters. Now, this is just what I've found, okay? Some rules of thumb here. When the bite is really tough and you're just not getting bites, that to me is when I'm going to grab this little finesse worm, like this guy right here.
5-inch.
This is on an 1/8 ounce head. This is a big bite baits for the shaky head guys out there. A couple of the heads that I've really found that I like, this big bite baits shaky head is a quality head. Crocagator makes another really good shaky head. That's the two main ones that I fish on the finesse side. You know, Cumberland Pro just came out with a standard shaky head. It's got a screw lock on it. It's a great head. It's got a really good hook on it, but it's got a long screw lock on it. And I take some side snips and I cut about half of it off. But once I do that, it's fine. It doesn't have too much of the screw lock to get in the way. But right now, I mean, I've been fishing this big bite bait shaky head for a long time.
And that's a ball head, right?
It's a ball head. So when it's really, really tough, I like to drop down to like a 5-inch finesse. And a lot of times I'll throw this on 8 or 10 pound test, maybe 12 pound test, and just fish it super, super slow. It doesn't, it's something that it doesn't freak the fish out. If they're in a neutral, in their negative mood, and this thing comes kind of scooting by them, it seems like they have a tendency to suck it in. You'll catch a lot of small fish on this, but I've caught some pretty big fish. And then on the other flip side of that, in the post spawn, when the fish come off the beds and they're feeding up, sometimes that's when your big worms, like your old monster, will come into play. It seems like they want a big meal. They're hungry. They've been working. They've been, making babies and defending the nest and all that. And they seem like they want to start feeding up. And that's when they like that bigger stuff. But then even this summer, I've seen it where they'll want like a Mag 2, which is a 9-inch worm. And then sometimes they'll want that 10.5 inch. And then sometimes they want a 7-inch. There'll be like a little, maybe they're preferring a certain size worm for a couple weeks. And then they go to another size. I don't know why, but rule of thumb is after the post spawn, the bigger worm. And then like right now in the summer, they've seen a lot of pressure. They've had a lot of pressure. They've seen a lot of baits. They've seen a lot of the bigger worms. So like that 7-inch worm, and then sometimes you have to drop back down to like a shaky head, a straight tail worm with less action, just because of the pressure and the hot water and that. So they'll start out eating something big, and then it seems like it wanes down. And then in the fall, they might start feeding up again. So just what's some of your rules of thumb?
You honestly said it perfect. I call it the post spawn funk. And that's when it gets super, super tough. You're trying to capitalize on a handful of bites that you get throughout the day. I think the big thing is if you're going to throw a big bait in the post spawn, you really, really got to slow down. You're not going to throw a 10.5. And this is only my opinion. Guys, correct me if I'm wrong or you got something else. And that post spawn, the dog days of summer, I mean, we get 85 to 90 degree surface temperatures in the water. It's starting to cool down a little bit that I've seen so far, but we went through a spell. What was it, like a week and a half, 2 weeks ago, where it was well into the hundreds.
Yeah. I saw 94.8 degrees on the Wednesday night.
Yeah.
Surface temp.
Yeah. I mean, that's insane, guys. That's super, super hot water. But in those fish, they don't like that. I mean, they're cold-blooded animals. They don't, when it gets 95, they're 95. So they're lethargic, they're slow. They still have to eat, though. Don't keep that in mind. A fish, when it's that hot and the water temperature is that high, there was somebody that told me once what the weight of the fish ratio to what they have to eat a day just to survive. And if we have a biologist on there, we might be able to get that information. But that number was astronomical to me. They still have to eat a lot of fish. So don't hear us wrong that they're not going to eat big baits during this time of the year, the post spawn. Or the summertime, that slow bite, but it's 2, 3, 4, 5 minute casts. I mean, make a cast of that big worm and just let it soak for a while.
They want it real slow in the summer.
You would be surprised. I mean, I've had a lot of days where I've thrown that worm out there and let it set, and then I'll drag it, and then I'll count to 30 or count to 60, and then I'll move it again. And I'm kidding you. You pick it up, and all of a sudden one will eat it because they're just sitting down there. They're looking at that worm going, move. I dare you to move. But if it just goes by their face, they're not going to eat it. They're not looking to chase something down. They're just looking to sit there, wait for that worm to go by, make them mad enough just by sitting in front of their face, and then they're just going to pick it up. And you may not even feel that bite until you move it. They may have had that worm in their mouth for 10 or 15 seconds. And when you pull it up and you feel a little head shake, let them eat, because a lot of times you're going to catch a big one doing that.
You'll get that. And I've learned this from these Wednesday nighters, that you'll get a bite. They'll bite real funny sometimes, and you won't even feel them on there. I don't know how they can do it. They just move water through their gills and just scoop it up, but you won't even know that it happened. And all of a sudden you'll just feel something that's a little bit heavy, and they'll be on there. And I know the guys that I've seen guys fish the same stretch of bank, like a 200-300 yard stretch of bank, for 4 hours, and just moving painstakingly slow. When you feel a piece of wood, you just leave that worm or that jig there. And this is in the summertime, and those are the guys that usually do better. So there's something to be said about they get in a funk in the middle of the summer, just like, the post spawn. It's a different time of year, but it's a similar deal where they want something moving really, really slow. And one more thing, Stephanie, we'll move on to something else. But in the wintertime, finesse, just from my experience, like that little finesse worm, that's where I would definitely put away your bigger stuff and go to something really small, because I don't know that they probably eat less based on they're cold-blooded, their metabolism is slower, so they are going to be eating less. But I still think that
they're still going to eat, though.
I still think they're going to eat that small stuff. And there's people have different views. Some people throw like a big old fat mop jig or something. They think the fish wants one big meal. But from my experience, I've caught more fish on something a lot smaller in the wintertime. But that's just me talking. Hashtag no pro. We're just two dudes. Ken's got, what's going on? Update with Ken. Just boated 4th, no help.
That was like 20 minutes ago. I bet he's caught 5 or 6 more since then.
86.4 degree water. Nice. He's on fire. So let's move on to something else. What's another bait that's been working for you?
Let's kind of, we talked about post spawn. Let's backtrack a little bit. I know we're around here, at least we're out of post spawn.
We're dead summer right now.
We're dead summer, but if we go back a little bit, what do you think?
That's a killer. He throws that one. That's when you don't leave home without that.
I don't. I guarantee you there's no less than 6 of these in the boat.
Put your hand in front of that sucker and see if it shows up better. Get a little closer.
A little closer. Well, I don't know if you guys can tell what color
it's a 6XD.
6XD, of course.
That's that baby.
Chartreuse, powder blue back. I don't know what it is about that color, because there's nothing in the lakes that I fish that look like this bait. But it is a absolute stone cold killer for me. I mean, this one's got teeth marks all over. It's got hook rash. It's got rock rash, shell bed rash, you name it. I mean, it's been through what and back. I actually just had to put new hooks on it because I wasn't using an auto Trieve, but my hound dog had to pull it up out of a brush pile the other day, and I ended up pulling the whole dang brush pile. It got hung on the rope that somebody tied off on it and the concrete block. So fortunately I got it out.
So you're catching fish on this right now, the last couple of weeks.
Maybe.
I know we are on the shaky head.
I have caught some fish on this in the last couple of weeks, but it is a absolute grind. I'm one that, my buddy Kyle, I don't think he's on here tonight, but he tagged me in a picture the other day, and it was a bunch of fish sitting on top, and said, tag a buddy that could still fish this hole and not catch one. And he's right, because I don't like fishing shallow, especially this time of year. I love going out there and fishing the edge of that thermocline. Which that thermocline is set up right now in about 15 to 16 foot, depending on the day. That's one thing that I do. As soon as I put my boat in the water, as soon as I pull up to the next spot, I'm looking at that thermocline, seeing where it's at, seeing where my hard edge is at. And just like in the muddy water we talked about earlier, I'll use that thermocline as a hard edge. So I know that the fish are not going to go below that. The dissolved oxygen level is not conducive for life and aquatic life at that point. So I'll use that. So when my hump or whatever I'm fishing, my offshore point tops out and say 12 to 15, 16 foot of water, and that thermocline is at an 18, that's the juice. I know that they're going to move all the way out to where it falls off at, and that's where I'm going to throw this. And I'm going to throw this in everything. I'm not going to let any stone be unturned. I'll throw it in brush pile. I'll throw it in the middle of a brush pile. And for me, it's just the confidence. I remember growing up, Dad always told me, don't you throw that crankbait in that tree, boy, you're going to get stuck. And it took me a long, long time to get that out of my head, but I finally got him to do it. And man, we throw them in the nastiest, gnarliest stuff. And a lot of it's just feel. And I'm throwing that on a 7.6 cranking rod. It's an old Bass Pro cranking stick. One that I've had in the boat for years, but I'm throwing on 12-pound test line. I throw it on a slow gear ratio reel. It's usually a 5-1 to 1, 5-0 to 1. And that is on a loose. What is that one that I throw? Speed spool? MB? No, I throw that on the speed spool. It's one of their cheaper models. But I like the slow gear ratio only for fatigue. You throw this long enough all day long, it's going to wear on your arm if you're throwing on a 6 or 7 to 1. And it makes me feel like I'm doing something throwing that slower gear ratio. But like I said, 7.6 rod, big glass rod, or parabolic rod. It may not be glass, but a parabolic rod. Throwing it 12-pound line, and I'll throw it in the middle of everything. Just know when you got to get that feel when you come across that brush pile, and you'll feel it as soon as your line hits it. You know that the bait has changed its action a little bit. Just start your slow down, and as soon as you hit that, let it stop, rise up, and a lot of times that's when you're going to get your bite. Or if you pop over it and you didn't feel that come up on your line and you tick it and it stops and then start cranking again, a lot of times that's where my bites are coming, especially this time of year because they're sitting tight to cover on the bottom. They're not looking for something that's gone here and gone. They're not wanting to chase it. They're going to hit it when it's
you kind of wake them up when you hit that, and then
just stall it out.
It
just sits there for a second, and then
because that happens naturally. When bait and bluegill are getting chased around, they'll run into stuff, trying to get away. So they see things, hit things, and then get stunned. It just looks like something like a bait fish hit a piece of wood and it got stunned. And then they suck it in. It's right there in their face.
It's an easy meal, and that's what they're looking for. They're not in 95-degree water temperature, 90-degree water temperature. They're not looking to chase something down for 30, 40 feet. They're looking
in the morning they will, and then
in the evening. Yep, yeah, and that's about it.
But midday, man, they're chilling.
That's one of my go-tos post spawn up until now. And again, I'm probably a little more harder-headed than most guys, but I really like catching them on a crankbait. So what's
a secondary color? You got to give up a little bit.
Secondary color, sexy shad. Chartreuse, sexy shad, depending on watercolor. Right now, we got like a little bit of a stain, kind of. It's that summer funk water. I mean, it's not tannic. It's just
got algae, a
lot of algae bloom on the top, and it's not clean water like I like to see.
It sucks for side scanning too.
Yeah, all that clutter, and it's just nasty. But sexy shad would be my secondary.
So up shallow, that's your deep baits, and you throw. Do you throw any other deep crankbaits? Do you throw like a DT 16 or 20?
I do.
It's
more for me. It's more about confidence, and I just have a lot of confidence in that 6XD.
You'll throw a 5XD too. Though,
I throw a lot of 5. Just again, that just depends on
the depth.
I know another kind of shameless plug, but Bass Talk Live Day 4 with Frank Scalish. If you guys aren't listening to that,
you're missing out.
You are missing out. Frank Scalish he's the man.
Yeah,
he's a genius, I think is what they call him.
The genius.
But I was listening to a lot of that stuff, and he was telling, because I used to throw a 6XD. It didn't matter if it was 8 foot deep. I was throwing that 6XD just dredging it through there. I mean, I was making them anchor lines that you see on side scan. But throwing that 5XD, I'll throw that in like 8 to 10, but I'm throwing that on 15. So I'm throwing that on a little bit heavier line, so I don't get that big dig. So that 12-pound allows that 6XD for me to top out probably at 18 foot, and then that on a real long cast, and on that 5XD with that 15. I mean, I could probably get down to 15 feet with 12-pound, and I've done that before. But I'm throwing that 15-pound because I'm gonna find that shallower brush, and I'm gonna really, really bang into that. And a lot of that stuff I can probably get it down to about 12, and that's about my max on a super, super long cast. But if I'm fishing that,
I've been throwing that Series 5 a little bit.
Yeah, I like that one too.
But it doesn't get that depth though.
No,
it's disappointing. You make a long cast and it just doesn't get down there, man.
To help you guys out, the difference between, and Mike Russell's on here, he'll probably be able to give us a little more insight. For me, and this is how I envision it in my head, the 6XD goes like that. The Series 5, the Series, the 5s, the 6s,
Series 5, Series 6,
and the 3s They kind of go like
Yeah,
that
more of a
versus
45.
that.
Yeah, they don't get down there as fast. So you miss a lot of the bottom on a cast.
No, but there's applications for both.
Mhm.
So
that bill angle, this is something that Sam George was talking about when we had him on a live stream not too long ago. He throws a Series 5 a bunch around brush piles in that 8 to 9 foot zone because he says the bill angle, it's a flatter bill angle and it has a better deflection in wood. So he's a big believer in the series, the S series or whatever versus the XD. So, it honestly, I haven't thrown it enough. I threw it a while back, and then after I was talking to him, I kind of went out and bought a couple of them. But the thing I did notice is that it's got that shallower dive, and it takes a little bit longer. There's less room for error. It doesn't. You gotta line up your cast better. You got to get your boat in the right position on that piece of cover that you're wanting to hit, because it's just for the reasons I just said, it just doesn't get down.
It's not digging.
It's not digging.
It's swimming.
Ken says he clips the screw down to one turn.
Good.
This dude, Ken's got a lot of knowledge, man. He knows what's up. So shallow. We'll talk a little bit more about some shallow crankbaits because you can certainly catch fish shallow this time of the year. Somebody mentioned Wren Lake, those rocky lakes, Crab Orchard, anything that's got stained water and a lot of rock and wood. This right here, this front side, I believe this is honey shad color. This is a good bait. I caught some fish I've been catching a few fish on this the last week or so, throwing it around. And it's a flat side. It's got a little bit more subtle action. I think it's obviously not near as aggressive. And I think they see a lot of square bills by this time of the year. And I think this has just got enough of a different action that you can catch a few fish.
I haven't thrown that much. Does that hunt a lot?
I can't explain it. You'll just have to go out there and throw it.
All right.
It's got
it cost me more money.
It's different. It's worth it.
Okay.
It's worth it. Yeah, just get this color right here. This is not that shows up. Yeah, I think that's the honey bee color, if I remember right. I could be wrong. I don't know. I bought like a couple different colors, and I'm not sure of the names of them. But anyway, just if you buy the shad looking one, it's kind of got the cool part of about this is, no, this isn't the one that's got the broken back on the back of it. One of those has like this area right here is solid, and then it's open up here. It's kind of interesting. It looks really cool in the water. And I've seen shad like that they don't have a solid back. It's kind of broke up. So it's got a different look in the water. But you can still catch them on shallow diving crankbait. These hooks are sharp too. So let's move on. Oh, this is another one I've been throwing a little bit. You ever thrown this, a hybrid hunter?
I have not. I almost picked up a couple of them.
This is the stupidest looking bait. This hybrid hunter.
See that bill on that?
Yeah, it's got that L bill.
There it is.
Yeah. And this is crazy. If you guys want to buy something weird and go out there and play around with it, buy one of these. They're only like $9. It's got a real.
They were on sale at Academy the other day.
Yeah.
You guys are local.
This color right here, I like quite a bit. This is it ghost minnow or green? This is green gizzard.
Green gizzard.
Yeah. So
it's not like we have any gizzard shad in lakes.
Exactly. It comes through grass pretty good. It's just something different. I've been playing around with it. Haven't caught any fish on it because I haven't kept it in my hands long enough. So let's move on to some other stuff that's been working. We kind of got sidetracked there. I'll show you something that's kind of cool. And not a lot of people throw this. You've heard about it a lot. And I started throwing this last year. This is the Easy T rig by Cumberland Pro. It's a Tokyo rig. But yeah, so you've got a wire dropper. It's about 3 inches long. And when you get it, it doesn't have that little hook in it like that. You can see that little, black. There you go. That works awesome, man. Yeah. So I got that little bend in there. That's to keep this weight from coming off. But when you get it, it's straight. So this thing's pretty unique. I've had a couple pretty good days on this. And what makes this thing unique is this weight stands up on the bottom, obviously, and you get free swing of this hook. You get a lot of action. It's not pinned to anything. It moves a lot more, and it has more of a swimming action. And you're all hook. When a fish grabs this, it's all hook. It's kind of like a weightless deal. It's the same kind of hookup deal. It's got a little swivel on it so you don't get line twist. And, you know, this is a 3/0 hook. The 3/0 hook works great with baby brush hog, speed crawl, a little like a little 7-inch power worm. You can put just about anything on this, you know, depending on the hook size. You know, they make them from, you know, like VMC, the original Tokyo rig. They've got flipping hooks. They've got straight shank hooks, worm hooks, EWG hooks. They've got whatever you want. Cumberland Pro has like 2/0 all the way up to 5/0. But it's a different look. It's really cool if you put a swim bait on this. It's hard to explain what it does, but it just stands out. It swims on a more of a horizontal plane. But you could throw this out. You can flip it. It comes through cover really well. You flip it around wood, lay downs, comes over rock really good, comes through grass pretty good. And one application that I was using it for here locally, there's a lake that's got a lot of that black scum. So you guys, if anybody on here that fishes ponds, this is something you definitely want to put in your arsenal. So if you throw out, you know, throw a Texas rig or something out there and that black algae, witch's death, it's that filamentous algae, I think they call it.
You're more technical than me,
I
bud.
call it black death or witch's
Black
hair.
death.
It's that nasty, skanky, mossy
Stinks.
stuff, man. Yeah,
Stinks.
you can't fish anything on the bottom.
I think there's some of it on
It
one of my
probably
baits
is.
here.
But this Tokyo rig, you'll get that crap on your weight, but your bait is clean. So it works excellent for any kind of situation where you got a lot of crud. If you've got a lot of organic matter, like leaves and stuff that are blown in a farm pond, and you can't fish anything, you know, you really only have a couple options: a top water or something that's weightless, like a wacky rig or something in that scenario. But this is like a third option. This actually will come through that stuff, and your bait's pretty clean. So that's kind of what I've been using this for, and it works. It's just a different look, and I don't think they see it a lot. You can also punch with this thing. Now this Easy T rig is kind of I would say it's a standard wire setup. It's got a Gamakatsu hook on it, but it's their standard hook. So if I was going to be doing some punching, I would probably purchase the VMC with the heavy wire. They make them with a heavier wire.
It's like a super line hook.
Like a super line hook. You know, it's got something that's going to handle that shock of a braid in a 7'6" or 7'11" rod. You'll probably, I'm not saying you bend this out, but you got it's likely that you may bend this out if you hook up with like a 5 or 6 pounder in a mat.
And you hit them with an 8-foot rod, with 65-pound braid.
This is more for like just regular everyday fishing. But I have punched with the Tokyo rig. It comes through grass really well because when you flip it, the weight is down and the weight punches through and it kind of makes a hole for your bait to go through. So it goes through with a lot less weight. So if you're having to punch like a Texas rig with a 1 ounce weight, flipping mats, you can get by with about a 1/2 ounce, you know, maybe no more than 3/4. But when I was fishing it last year, the year before, I was finding that I could get through the grass with a 1/2 ounce on the Tokyo rig, and it was taking me a 1 ounce with a Texas rig. So in a way, you know, like a 1 ounce weight is $7, like a tungsten weight, and a 1/2 ounce is probably half that price. So you're saving money that way, and it's just a different look. And then when it comes down and through that mat, it's just sitting there up off the bottom. It's got a
completely different look.
But something I've been playing around with. I have caught fish on this recently. So if you want to go out and experiment with a new technique, certainly try it. Like I said, you can put just about anything else on it.
We need to check some comments.
Okay.
Let's check some comments, make sure we didn't miss anything important.
Stephanie says she's never got a shaky head to work for me. Stephanie, get an 1/8 ounce ball head and get the Zoom finesse worm and the watermelon candy and get you a spike it pin and hit the tail with that with some chartreuse. Throw it on like 8 or 10 pound test and keep it in your hands for about 2 hours and then let me know.
I'm glad Tom got your ice cream home. Appreciate that.
Darius says he loves the Z-Man TRD Giant.
Stephanie, no problem. If you're still watching, you're not asleep. How you doing, Keegan? Love you too, buddy. And then we got...
Oh, we had a giveaway. I forgot about that.
That's right.
What was it? You have the number in your head?
I do. I haven't seen it yet, though. I think they kind of forgot about the...
Oh. No winner on the giveaway yet.
Not that I saw. Unless I missed one here. So keep guessing. Stephanie's all over it.
She's all over it.
Honey shad.
Honey shad. Tom forgot the number already.
I missed a bunch of comments, I think, here.
We're checking these comments
I
real
got
quick.
fat fingers.
So make sure nobody's won yet.
6XD. Oh, good Lord. You guys are great.
Nobody's got it.
No. I think he's like close. Wait.
Who?
Oh, there, I see it.
You see it?
Yeah.
Somebody won?
I think so. That's as far as I can go in the comments. Darius King.
You got it?
He did. We're 13.
13. I should have guessed that. That's your lucky number.
Sorry.
All right, Darius. I'll write that down so I won't forget.
I apologize if it missed it, but we were out of room on comments there. So let's make sure here. So I'm going to scroll.
Darius is a good dude, man.
All the way back down. I'm going to say this. If we didn't address your comment, leave it again. We'll try to hit it here. Another sneaky bait. I guess a sneaky bait. I don't know. What do you think? Summertime?
It's not a lot of people are doing it, and
So-
I'll talk about it after you're done talking about it too. But
For me, and it's something that Gabe reminded me about a couple weeks ago. I forgot about it. But this isn't your standard spinnerbait. I don't throw a spinnerbait a lot when it's the dog days of summer, when it gets really hot out. Not your typical quarter, 3/8, half ounce spinnerbait. This is a 1 ounce bottom dweller by Strike King. And it's got the, what do they call them? The razor blades.
Mm-hmm.
So what I do, I throw this the same spots that I'm going to throw this. I'll throw this in a brush pile. It's going to come through a brush pile, obviously a heck of a lot better than a 6XD, where I'm going to throw a worm, where I'm going to throw a jig, anything in those deep brush piles, those deep offshore spots. What this is going to do, same thing he was talking about with the Tokyo rig, this is going to keep me up off the bottom a little bit. It's going to keep me from going through that nasty witch's hair. It's going to give those fish a different look. So I'm going to throw this just like I would throw a big 1 ounce swim bait. Anything I'm going to drag on the bottom, I'm going to throw it all, make a big long cast with it. I'm going to let it go all the way down to the bottom, and I'm going to slow roll it all the way back. But the big thing about this is, now I throw a lot of 3/4 and 1 ounce spinner baits in the spring of the year, but those also have big thumping blades on them. They have like a number 6 willow leaf. You throw a
Colorado,
a big Colorado a lot
7,
in the spring. What this is, these blades are, I don't know if you guys can tell, but those blades, they're small. They're not going to create a lot of lift in the water. So when I throw that out there and I let it on the bottom in 15, 16 foot of water, it's going to stay down there. And it's got a short arm on it. I think that's for me, that's the big key. I'm not a spinnerbait guy, and I'm getting it all backwards here. But you see that arm, you can point to that arm right there, arm right here.
Show the hook point where it relates to the hook point. So you can see the hook point's right here. That's a short.
Nope.
No, I'm over here.
There you go.
Yeah, here we go. The hook point is right here. That arm doesn't even come out. You know,
Right.
It's a short arm deal.
So Gabe reminded me about it a couple weeks ago, and I started throwing it and having quite a bit of success on it. And like you said, it's just a completely different look than a lot of the guys are throwing right now. You go to the lake, and I guarantee you, every bachelor that pulls into the parking lot has got a 10-inch plumb worm tied on it. Our local lake. I mean, it's just what it is. I mean, they're still going to get bit on it, but I'm going to try to throw something way different than everybody else. And there's not a lot of guys throwing a big 1 ounce spinnerbait out there. Not at least that I see. I mean, you guys might be throwing them, but that's one thing that just a little bit different look.
We have 3 winners, I guess.
I guess
Stephanie said she guessed 13 way up there, and then Doug Auto-Trieve guessed 13 way at the top too. So we
missed a bunch.
Yeah, we're gonna have to do something. I'll take care of Doug and Stephanie. I think what I'm gonna do. She won like 2 weeks ago, but that's okay. I think what I'm gonna do, Stephanie, is I'm gonna send you a pack. Just a customized THM pack of baits that will get you some bites in the tough summer conditions. I'll send you some of my go-to when I need some bites.
I'll throw in a couple of my shaky heads that I pour too.
Yeah, so we'll set you up with a little get bites in the dog days of summer tackle pack, and I'll get that to you. I'm gonna write that down. So everybody guessed 13.
Everybody's got it.
It's like I felt like I walked into a bar and I said, "Everybody around on me,"
and then 10 more people.
And then 10 more people
got on Facebook.
Hey, I was here. I was just in the bathroom, man.
Yeah.
I was just in the bathroom.
Exactly.
Write all this crap down.
Hellabass, you're not too late.
Hellabass guessed 13 too.
I bet he did. I don't know. What's your thoughts on that big spinnerbait?
Okay, let me write this stuff down. So
you need a new Sharpie, bud.
I know, this thing's wore out. So we had
Darius,
got him, Doug,
Hellabass, 12 3/4.
Nice, thanks, appreciate that.
It's not my number though, bud.
12.75.
Stephanie.
Okay, that's it. We're cutting it off. I'm gonna run out of product. They didn't send me a whole lot. Okay, the big spinnerbait. Here's my take on the big spinnerbait. Did I bring that one out here? Oh, it's over there. Grab that real quick if you don't mind. And you throw that on the same rod. You throw it on 7.2?
Yep.
Okay.
7.2, G-force rod, medium heavy.
We're tight, guys. We bought these. We got a good deal on some Quantum. We used to have a guy that used to hook us up with Quantum. We got a good discount on Quantum. So we bought a bunch of the smokes. We have a micro guides, great rod, guides, mediocre. I think they've improved them, but I love that rod. That's a good rod. But then we decided that we weren't going to buy any more smokes, and we wanted something that was a little bit more durable. And this has got it's like what do they call that? The stainless guides. There's no inserts. So
stainless, zirconium,
whatever, man. It's
bass
like
fishing.
Man, we got these rods for like $70 or something. So we bought a bunch of them, but it's a 7.2 medium heavy. It's a great rod. So this is something I've got video coming out sometime soon. I had a couple good days over there throwing spinnerbait. Well, that's not the right spinnerbait. I cut it off the other day, but I've been throwing it's a 3/4 ounce Strike King spinnerbait with the razor blades on it. This is a Cumberland Pro's new spinnerbait, but I think it's sexy. I like it. Actually looks really good. But anyway, so what I'm doing, similar to what Jonathan's doing, is I'm going through the same areas where I would be throwing a jig or a big worm or a shaky head. So main lake rock, you got wood, channel swings, that kind of stuff. I'm really not targeting too much of the grass. It's kind of more clean areas for what I'm doing with that big spinnerbait. And here's how this kind of came about. I get bored. I go to these lakes a lot, and I get bored, and I start trying stuff. I've been fishing a swim jig out deeper.
Fish.
Yeah, right. I've been fishing a swim jig out deeper, and I've been playing around with that big spinnerbait. But I'm throwing that out, making a long cast, and I'm letting it sink to the bottom or close to the bottom. And then I just start a real slow wind. And what you kind of want to do is you want that bait to hit the bottom every once in a while, and then you just speed it up a little bit, and then you start slowing it down a little bit until it touches the bottom again. And that's how you're working it back. There's going to be a point where you can't slow it down anymore. It'll start coming up naturally because it gets underneath the boat. But I do put that split tail trailer on there. Something I've been putting on there is the Zoom split tail. It has minimal lift. And that's one thing you have to think about when you're throwing a deep spinnerbait is what kind of trailer. If you put a trailer on there, I like a trailer, but you wouldn't want to put anything that's
Fat Albert or
something that you don't want any extra lift. You got to have the key is to find a spinnerbait that's got small blades, 3/4 to half or 3/4 to 1 ounce, and small trailer. That split tail has got a little bit of this going on, but it doesn't have much lift. So I think it gives it a little bit of contrast with that skirt, and it's kind of a bold presence down there because it's dark down there deeper. I always forget that the sun only penetrates so far. Those fish that are down there in 15 foot, it's not that bright down there. I mean, they can still see pretty good because they're acclimated to their environment, but that's something about that bold white, which is probably one of the reasons why that big loud crankbait works down there deep too. But I think that white split tail is a great trailer for slower on those spinnerbaits.
Well, a lot of it, I think it adds bulk to your bait. It gives it more substance down there. without adding that lift that you're looking for. And like you said, it's dark down there. So something that's this big versus something that's this big, they're gonna pick it up.
Doug, I got you, man. Doug let me off easy.
Now, are you gonna take him or is he gonna take you?
I don't know, man. He's taking me. I think I need to take him.
I think so.
He's taking me a lot of times. So I think I need to take him for sure. Number 13 just yeah, I got you, man. I got you. I'll include that when I send your stuff out.
God, it happened so fast. We weren't even I wasn't even thinking about Sasquatch, and all of a sudden it's just like.
Don't say it again.
We're done. We're done.
You
No
can only
more.
say it once.
No
Hey,
more.
I'm about to start giving away all my personal stash.
Oh, jeez.
Steffi says, "Give mine to Tom, and I'll take a T-shirt." That works. I'll send you a T-shirt, Stephanie.
Perfect.
I'll send you a T-shirt. What size you want? Let me know. You want gray or we got two colors. We got, this is called the Topaz. And if you guys are interested, I have a few more of these left. They're, I can't even remember what they are shipped. I haven't sold any in a while, but I've got this color, which is like a topaz color. And then I've got the gray. These are these T-shirts that you see sitting behind me when I'm doing my videos and stuff. On the back, they say support local fishing.
Heck yeah.
Yeah. So they're pretty cool T-shirts. They're a 50-50 poly blend. They're soft. They're not itchy. They're a unisex cut. So they're made to fit a boy or a girl. They're not like, you know, the girls' shirts are typically a little bit, you know, tapered and stuff. So they're not quite, you know, I don't know. They're unisex, whatever.
You could work for a department store, bud. You're good at folding shirts.
Yeah. I've been practicing. Well, you got kids too.
Yeah.
I got girls
So
that wear like a ton of clothes.
Let's do like the real quick summer bait rundown because I know we're getting through here and I really want to talk about something.
Let's talk about that jig.
Well, so quick rundown. Football jig, pretty standard. Again, something that I make myself because I lose a lot of football jigs throwing them in rocks and brush piles. So it just financially suits me to throw a big football jig, make it myself.
Proud of that thing, are you?
What?
That jig.
That one?
Makes some pretty good jigs, man. I like that.
It's got a good stout hook in it.
Yeah.
I started using a different weed guard, better weed guard in it.
Yeah.
So
yeah, I've been catching some fish on a jig too lately.
I know Gabe's probably talked about this in his
underspin.
I
caught some fish on it.
I mean, you can. I don't know if you guys can see that, but my line is still. I cut these baits off. It's not like I just.
These
shameless plug.
These
this
are stuff you were fishing
This
with
is stuff
yesterday.
that I was using yesterday at the lake. Again, I hate to one that I make just simple underspin horse head. I don't know. There's 1,000 names for it. I mean, it became popular when Casey Ashley won the classic at Lake Hartwell.
Yep.
That's
Slow rolling that sucker out there and like
in super cold water. I think they were that morning. They were like trying to thaw the boats off of their trailers, not to get off track here. And then my last one that I brought for summertime is just a big swim bait. This is a big hammer on I believe it's a big hammerhead. I'm not.
It is
100% sure.
Yeah, that's a big hammer.
Okay.
Yep.
So that's a 3/4 ounce head. You can throw whatever size head on you. For me, it's getting the bait down and keeping the bait down. That's it. So it's either 1 ounce or 3/4 for me. Kind of the same setup that I throw on for my jig rod and my worm rod. It's 20-pound test, Seaguar and Vizex, bigger rod. Usually with a swim bait, I like a little bit more like a medium heavy. I want a little bit of play in that rod. So when they slam it, it loads up nicely, and I don't have to really set the hook on this. I just got to pull into them. But one thing I want to talk about for you guys, I don't care what swim bait you guys use. Everybody's got their personal preference. But for me, when it comes to swim baits, the bend
is your friend.
That bend in the tail is what it's about. When that bend does this, it's no bueno, no good. I don't like a tail that doesn't bend. So when that tail's like that, when I pull them out of the package, when I'm at the tackle store, that's what I want to see. I want to see a hard bend close to the middle of the body. And what that's going to do, that's going to give that swim bait the absolute most action that you can get. I like the keel on the big hammers. I don't know if you can see that. But that keel kind of gives it that little bit of shimmy, wobble, whatever you want to call it. It's kind of like that old wiggle wart roll and the rogue roll. That's something that's always for me. So what else? That's my summer bait lineup. My post spawn into summer. I got a little finesse swim bait, which that's my horse head, my underspin. I got my big swim bait. I'm gonna be throwing big jigs with big trailers on them. Big spinnerbait, big crankbait, and then if the bite gets super, super tough, old finesse.
Yep, the Nessie,
So,
the original Nessie.
What do you got?
Stephanie says, let me hit these real quick.
Okay.
She said she never believed in spinnerbait, and you guys and Todd's her boyfriend, kept telling me not to give up. She didn't, and she finally caught several fish. Sweet.
Well, if you look at all the big fish that I've ever caught over the years, it's always been on a spinnerbait. That's my, and I'm kind of like you, Stephanie. Spinnerbaits are like a love-hate relationship for me. I'll throw it for a couple months, a year, maybe 2 or 3 years back to back, and then it kind of gets thrown in the back of the boat, bottom of the boat, and I forget about them. But I always come back to a spinnerbait, and I always catch a big one on it.
Cody, are you talking about like a Bubba shot? So heavy line, big hook, big weight. If you are, you're right.
It's like a power shot?
Kind of like a power shot.
Yeah.
Yeah, I always call it a Bubba shot. Actually, I think I did a video on that a couple years ago where I had a Texas rig, Tokyo rig, and a power shot punching mats and just kind of did the comparison. It does pretty good. It shoots through the Bubba shot shoots through the mat, or power shot shoots through the mat well, but it kind of catches on the way up.
Yeah.
So it's the Texas rig goes through the best out of all three of those.
100%.
Yeah, it's hard to beat. If you can get bid on that, it's the most efficient. Stephanie wants to know, how do you guys fish a jig? Do you let it sit on the bottom, shake it, or swim it?
Yes.
All
of the above.
All of the above. It just depends. So, okay, so let me give you a couple scenarios. Right now, man, I'm still doing all three of them right now. I was trying to break it down.
Well, there's 5 for me. So you got shake it, you got swim it,
Shake and bake,
and you got, what was the other one? Swim it, shake it, swim it,
hop it,
stroke
it.
So for me, it's dragging it, and I call it stroking it, hopping it, and that's like they got to be. That's a very key window. So I would say probably ignore the hopping it. If you got actively feeding fish on the bottom and they're ready to eat, stroking it for me is a way to catch a bigger fish. And when I say stroking it, I'm pulling that jig probably 5 to 6 feet off of the bottom and then letting it fall.
Or if they're suspended 3 or 4 feet up off the bottom, you're
Yep.
throwing that jig up there in their face. And
So what that's doing, but I'm gonna let it fall on a slack to semi-slack line, and watch. I'm a line watcher at that point, because you'll see that line either straighten out or tick, or it's going to do something out of the ordinary. And at that point, you make about 3 cranks and you set the hook. You don't even feel it because you know he's already got it. Because there's only one reason that line's going to tick, and that's that fish ate that jig. So that's the 1%. If I'm throwing a big football jig, I'm going to drag it a lot, or and when I get to a piece of cover, I'm going to sit there and I'm going to just twitch that rod tip, and then I'm going to come over that piece of cover, and then I'm going to drag it some more. Because that football jig, just like if you took a football and you rolled it across your ground, that's what that jig is doing. It's moving around. Now, a swim jig obviously is completely different. Gabe's throwing a swim jig out deep now. He mentioned that a while ago, and he maybe get into it here in a little bit. But that swim jig, you're obviously going to swim it. But when I swim it, same thing. I'm always shaking that rod tip. Spinnerbait, any kind of moving bait, the worst thing that I see folks do is throw it out and reel it. Throw it out and reel it. You gotta, if you're not hitting something, you have to impose your own action on that bait. So throw that bait out there, and that swim jig for me, that rod is constantly twitching. I mean, my hand is going 90 to nothing. If I'm not hitting anything, if I hit a piece of grass, I'm gonna shake it off that piece of grass. I'm gonna just pop it out of it. And I'm probably talking just as fast as I'm fishing a swim jig. So
you're on it. Ken's going to weigh in. Good luck, Ken, man. I hope you
2 thumbs up.
He crushed them. Oh, he did crush them. We saw him crush them. That was pretty cool.
He was on here crushing fish. That's kind of makes me jealous. Kind of makes me jealous.
So like what Jonathan was talking about, stroking that jig, a place that comes in mind where that really works good around here is over there at Pyramid State Park. In the evenings over there, I throw the jig over there, and they really want it hopping. They really want you stroking it, popping it off the bottom. Those fish suspend out there really bad. They do that a lot in the summertime on any lake. But when they come in to feed, they're coming in to feed. That's why they've moved up shallow. They'll be sitting out there in 15 foot of water over 30. And when they move up into that 12 to 15 foot zone and shallower, they're coming in to feed. So you can get by with really making short hops and giving that jig a lot of action. So when the fish are feeding, it's a low light period, hopping a jig and giving a lot more action is the way to go, because you're just narrowing your search to active fish, and there's enough active fish up there that you're going to get those bites. So at that point in time, covering water is a way to go. And with a jig, that's hopping it. Now in the middle of the day, in the middle of the summer, 90 degrees out or whatever, high sunshine, bluebird skies, you're going to probably have to just drag that jig or just move it really slow and let it sit. Just kind of soak it. And you can twitch it a little bit. Most time you don't even want to twitch it. That's something I find. My buddy Jerry is a really good slow fisherman. He's really good at just moving a bait and letting it sit. And like I mentioned earlier, a lot of the guys that do good in those Wednesday night tournaments are the same way. They'll pull a bait and they'll let it sit for 5 seconds. When they feel a piece of wood or a big rock, they'll sit it. Just let it sit there, because there's a fish there, most likely. It just depends on how long you can be patient enough. I mean, are you patient enough to let that thing sit long enough for that fish to grab it? It's kind of like a cat and mouse thing. But so middle of the day in the summertime, the slower, the better. And as far as a swim jig, swimming a jig, I do that quite a bit. I'll do that when it's windy, you got overcast conditions, even in the middle of the day. You just never know. You just kind of got to try it. And you can swim a regular football jig. You can swim any jig. Grass is really where you need a more streamlined head on your jig, in my opinion. Like a football jig doesn't swim through grass that well, but a swim jig will swim through grass. But as far as most other conditions, I think you can get by with a football head and swim in the jig. I think maybe a lay down. I still like a actual swim jig, throwing through wood and stuff.
They skip so much better too.
They do
if
skip
you're
a lot
skipping
better.
under cover.
Yeah, let's check a couple more of these comments, and I'll run through my summer stuff real quick. See, Cody was saying one way he fired up some spots on table rock was with the jig, was ripping them up vertically. I mean, ripping. Yeah, so just stroking it hard like you're talking about.
Cody, it was the same way. That was when I really discovered it. I was catching a lot of fish, just dragging a jig, and I was reeling it up real fast to make another cast, and one ate it as it came up, and I was like, maybe I should just start stroking. This has been a handful of years ago, and that day I started stroking it, and I went from catching like 2 to 3 pounders to 4s and 5s. They weren't as often, obviously, because there's not as many 4 and 5s out there, but I was catching the quality fish, because the little ones were sitting on the bottom, the big ones were sitting up catching the scraps, I guess. So
Barry says he is having trouble getting big fish in gnarly thickets to commit to the jig and I guess to punching. They move it out but can't get the hook in. So it sounds like they're swimming out. Any suggestions on that? I've had that happen in the spawn a lot. It seems like they'll grab the trailer and they'll move it, and you can set into the fish, the opposite way that fish is moving. You still won't get a hook in them. It's super frustrating. So, I'd say downsize maybe a little bit.
Downsize your bait. And for me, this is me personally, whatever hook I can get in a bait is when I'm punching the thick stuff is what I'm going to put in there. So if I'm throwing a speed crawl and I know this, I can fit a 4/0 super line in a speed crawl, which is a very, very small bait. I mean, it's only 3.5 inches. Mm-hmm. That hook takes up every bit of it. Now I'm going to go through more baits that way, but when I'm fishing heavy, super heavy cover, I want the absolute biggest, gnarliest, to your thicket comment, the biggest, gnarliest hook that I can get into that bait, and the heaviest wire hook that I can get in that bait. because when I hit them with either 20, 25 pound fluorocarbon or 65 pound braid, I want to make sure when I hit them, they know that I hit them. That's my go-to on that. You may have a completely different theory on it, but that's my go-to.
Yeah, I think I mean, I use a straight shank hook a lot. I know you use an EWG a lot. And I've used an EWG in the same situations that I use a straight shank, and they both work. Just for some reason went to the straight shank.
That's like the most debated punching. It's not bait, it's not weight, it's not line, it's not rod. It's straight shank versus EWG, and snell to not to snell. I don't want to get into that topic because we could do a 2-hour live stream on snelling and not.
We're
snelling.
not doing a 2-hour live stream on snelling.
No, God, no. I can't do it.
Go to your house. not in this house.
You knock down drag.
I just tired of San Diego Jam now, man. I mean, I've snelled too, and I don't know, man. I think if you set that hook, you get it. You get it.
Like I said, and with punching, whether it's grass, heavy cover, and you're throwing big line, you got to throw a big hook, because I don't know how many straight are just regular gamies that I've straightened out because I was an idiot and didn't tie the right one on, or I flipped it in there and I hit one in the head with it and it just came right out.
Yeah, that Superline hook, that 3/0 Superline hook for your 6-inch worms, your baby brush hogs, your speed crawls, that's the one I use the most. I mean, you use a 4/0, but I like a 3/0 in a lot of stuff. I think I don't know why, it just seems to work. I like a little bit of that. Yeah, it is in my head. I like a little bit of the bait to be hanging off the bend of the hook. I think it gives it more action. I think if you've got all of that bait pinned up in the length of that hook,
I can see that.
You lose a lot of your action. I mean, to illustrate that, if you've got a hook all the way down to here, the only thing that's moving is that ribbon tail. But if your hook's like right here, you've got the ribbon tail in that little back section. And to me, I think it works. But
I say it's all in his head. It's all in my head that a bigger hook is going to catch a bigger fish.
Yeah.
Favorite jig, weight, size, day in and day out for me?
1/2 ounce?
Nope. 3/8.
3/8.
3/8 ounce jig, green pumpkin and purple peanut butter and jelly. That's my go-to bait. Day in and day out, it's going to catch fish all year long. Muddy, dirty, clear. For me, it doesn't matter. That jig, 100%. You get into my boat, there's going to be that jig tied on or laying in the bottom of my boat, one of the two, every time.
Yeah, if I'm fishing 10 foot, 10, 12 foot or deeper, I typically will favor like a 1/2 ounce. If I'm casting and dragging or hopping out deeper, I like a 1/2 ounce, but 3/8 up shallow and around cover. A lot of people favor a 1/2 ounce up shallow around cover.
Yeah, 100%. I mean,
it's easier to
Chad
pitch.
Morgenthaler talked about that.
He throws a 1 ounce sometimes.
He throws a 3/4 and 1 ounce.
Yeah.
And that was one thing that he said that he learned fishing on the tours. Guys don't throw big enough jig. So I'm working on that, guys. That's my personal, but I'm waiting till the spring to work on that.
Well, and we've had Lance Freeman on here. He's a Kentucky Lake stick, super good dude, and he's going to come on here sometime and do a full live stream. He's got a little bit of Gerald Swindle in him. I can't wait to do that. But he says the same thing. He pegs a 1 ounce tungsten weight on a creature bait and flips in like 2 foot of water.
Oh, geez.
Yeah.
Getting that reaction bite,
Yeah,
I guess.
get a straight up reaction bite. And so, they both work, but day in and day out, 3/8 ounces, just my go-to on that.
Look at this guy. Go ahead. Let's see here. Hide. See, I'm still learning all this, guys. So let's see if I did it right. What's your best lure that you have in the top? The one the fish are biting.
Duh. Where do you catch them at? In the mouth.
Yeah, that's right.
Where'd you catch your fish? In the mouth? In the water? What's the next best lure?
Oh,
you have
is it the next? Oh, the
Yeah.
next best lure that you have in your tackle
Yeah,
box.
I think he's saying hurry up.
Oh,
Or he's just curious. Well, let's move on though. Anyway, we were talking about. He talked about the underspin. I got to bring up the underspin a lot too. This is something I always have this tied on. Well, most of the time, I've been kind of swapping it out with a swim jig a little bit here and there, but I was throwing this 1/4 ounce. I typically throw a 3/8 ounce underspin. This is the Apex underspin by Cumberland Pro. I've been using this for a while. This is definitely my go-to. I just really like this underspin. It's got a good hook on it. It comes in a gold or silver blade. Got a couple different head designs, yada yada yada. But I like this head a lot. It's a strong hook. Caught some pretty big fish on it. But I like, as far as trailers, this is a little 4-inch Kitech. It's not the fat impact. It's the regular.
That's the swing impact.
It's the swing impact. It's a little bit narrower swim bait. It's got a ton of action, like Jonathan was saying. I mean, it's, where are we going?
I don't know who taught me about the tail thing. But.
Yeah. I mean, it's, in fact, yeah, exactly. In fact, this thing has so much swing that it will get caught in the bend of the hook a lot of times. And, you know, not a lot of times, but probably 1 out of every 20 cast. So as soon as I cast this thing right before it hits the water, I almost kind of thumb it to make that tail kind of flip out before it hits the water. At least that's what it does in my head. It seems to make a difference.
For me, I'm always like my first when it hits the water is to give it like a snap. Mm-hmm. And I don't, again, reaction bite, whatever, but it helps me out in my head.
Other trailers I like on this, I like the Little Dipper by Reactions Innovations. I like a Fluke sometimes, which is what, I know you like that Fluke a lot.
Yep. And that doesn't have a lot of action, obviously. That's what I like about it. It's super, super finessey. For me, it's super, super finessey, and I'm not a finesse guy. But it's got a big enough profile to it, because that Fluke is what, 5.5 inches long. And I've caught a lot of little fish, but I've caught some
shad, man, when they're in the water, they don't swim like that most of the time, unless they're really getting away from something. Usually they're just kind of cruising. Yep. So that Fluke, that's why I think that Fluke gets some bites. I think it kind of sneaks up on them. They're not really picking up any vibration off that tail. You get a little bit from that blade, obviously, but there are times when they like that Fluke, and there are times when they like a paddle tail. So you kind of got to play around with them. But this works all year long.
Yep.
This starts in the post spawn when the fish have got out of their funk and they move out, and it works all the way until the water gets down in like 50 degrees. But that whole time period you can throw
anytime. Well, I mean, I think anytime they're feeding on shad, that's
feeding on shad. You can work this at any depth. I was fishing yesterday. I went to Baldwin Lake, and I was throwing it 0 to 9 feet. So that's why I fished the 1/4 ounce. If I'm typically 3/8 is what I throw the most. I mean, 99% of the time I got 3/8.
Because it casts well, it gets down to the desired depth and it stays down there.
You can still fish it in like 15 if you really slow roll.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. But I like 15-pound fluorocarbon, and this is a smoke rod we were talking about. This is just a 7-foot medium heavy. So 7-foot medium heavy rod is perfect for an underspin. 7 to 7.3, whatever you got. You don't have to go out and buy a special rod just for an underspin. The same thing you would throw a swim jig on, or you would throw maybe a spinnerbait, a lighter spinnerbait. It is going to work just fine. But
I throw my underspin on a medium.
Yep.
I do.
That Veritas?
Yep. Medium Veritas.
I used to throw
RIP.
I used to throw my underspin on a medium Veritas.
But for me, it's just it's the load factor. Letting that fish eat it.
Talk about that. But that bite, that's so important with the swim bait and
swim bait, swim jig. Anytime that you're throwing any kind of single moving bait in deep water, long casts, as bass fishermen, our first instinct is when something bites our little bug, our cricket, is to jerk. And that is the big, absolute number one biggest mistake that I see guys making when throwing a jig, not necessarily a swim jig, but oh my goodness, I am all over the place. I need to slow down, bud. When throwing a swim bait, good Lord, guys.
I didn't even hear you. I was looking at
I was jig. I don't even know what I'm holding.
I'll make fun of you on the playback.
That's fine. But is to slow reel when you feel that fish eat it. Do not set the hook. Do not jerk. Just keep reeling. And then that fish is going to load up on that bait. And then at that point, lean into them. And it's if you guys watch Gabe's videos, you'll see it. It's the sweep hook set. It's nothing hard. It's nothing. You're not KVD just, popping one. You're just slowly reeling down on him. That hook is going to, I saw that comment a while ago. The man, the myth, the legend right here.
That's awesome, man. That's Jay Blattel right there.
Jay Blattel. It's not Blattel. What was it Daniel always called me?
Blattel.
Blattel. Yeah. Blattel. It's Blattel, by the way. But just a slow pull into those fish.
It's an Alberto knot.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, okay. Sorry.
It sounds better, though.
It does. It sounds fancier.
The big thing for me on any kind of swim bait is super, super sharp hooks. Anytime that hook gets dull, If it's one that I make, I throw it at the bottom of the boat. If it's one that is expensive, like a 3/4 1 ounce swim bait head, I'll sharpen them. So, what kind of animals do?
So we can't take Rich to Lake of Egypt because he always wants to throw his baits around people's docks and like mess up their float tubes and stuff. He got chewed out for that
earlier on his YouTube, Facebook.
Yeah, that was a good thumbnail too, Rich. Really good thumbnail. As content creators appreciate a good thumbnail. I'm horrible at it. I'm just like,
was it like a Karen standing there?
It was a Karen and the float, and you could
no
the drama,
offense if there's a Karen out there.
The drama and all that. So it's a good one to draw you in. There's an art to that. I just like making videos, and I'm working on my thumbnail game, man.
I just like
straightforward.
I like catching fish.
You just like catching fish.
Would you
get to fish a lot more. You don't have to mess with all that crap.
I don't know. I don't get the days off in the week like you do.
That's true. So let's move on to another one here.
Okay. Are we to what we're? Are we?
I'm
done with the summer?
No. I got one more.
Okay.
One more. Two more. I got two more. Real quick. I'll bust through them real quick. The swim jig. We were talking about jigs a while ago. This is another bait that really starts in the post spawn, but I've been using this a lot lately. I've been catching a lot of fish in the backs of creeks, and this is only going to get better. Those fish are going to start migrating. The bait's going to start moving up shallow in the backs of these creeks, and the swim jig and a spinnerbait. It's probably and a square bill, I guess. But swim jig is the thing I'm going to have in my hand the most. But I'm using it a lot right now. And like the spinnerbait, I've been fishing this thing out deeper. I've been experimenting with it up until probably last year. I really didn't fish a swim jig much deeper than probably 7 foot. And a lot of that was like 0 to 5. But I've been experimenting with this, fishing it out to like 15 foot. It's a lot. It requires a lot more patience, but it can be done, and it's a different look. And it's, I got a lot of confidence in it now. I've had some pretty good days, but this is a True Track swim jig. It's a new one by Cumberland Pro. It's a pretty sweet jig. It's got a 5/0 hook. It's got the fiber guard. The limit out compact swim jig by Cumberland Pro had the wire weed guard. This has the fiber guard. It's more traditional. So if you like to throw your swim jig on a braid, this has got a 5/0 gammy. Super sharp. It's not going to bend out. A Menace, that little dipper. You can throw a Z-Hog.
You giving up the juice over here or what?
I'm just thinking of all.
Golly,
you can throw anything on the back of this.
Look what I wrote.
Yeah. Now talk about that. Talk about why'd you turn that Menace sideways or vertical.
I don't know if you guys can see this. So I don't know if you can pull yours up here. Let's see. Hat, maybe. Okay. So my swim jig is turned sideways, and you can see my tail. Gabe's swim jig is looking at the top or the bottom of it, and you can see his tail. I don't know if you guys can tell that. So anyway, I rig my swim jig trailers vertical. So the tail is like, if it's going through the water, it's like this, not like this. Again, bass fishermen, we're basket cases. We should be admitted to the mental institution 100% of the time, all the time. My theory on that is that's what a gizzard shad's tail looks like. It's forked and it sits like this. Now, does it do this? No, but in my head, it works. Gabe, you throw yours on 15 to 20?
I throw it on 15-pound test.
15-pound test fluorocarbon.
Yeah, I've been this is my chatterbait rod. It's a 7'3", medium heavy, and I've been throwing it on this, recently because I've been breaking all my 7 foot medium heavies.
Yeah.
So I was forced to try this. But it's not just in your head on that vertical Menace. It also allows the bait to get down deeper.
Doesn't create that lift.
It doesn't create that lift. I haven't been having problems. Basically, I'm still fishing my Menace on there traditionally. It's just making me slow down even more to keep it down there. And I need that. So there's 2 ways to look at that. You can get it deeper with it rigged horizontal, but you just have to slow down. But next time you go out on a lake, if you guys like fishing swim jigs, get out there and throw this thing in the same areas where you would throw a Texas rigged worm or a jig, and you'll be surprised. I mean, you can get some bites on it. It's a cool bite.
Where you would throw a spinnerbait in the spring? Yeah, throw a swim jig in the summer because it's going to be that little less intrusive. It's not going to have that that big flash, that big. We talked about, those fish they want something that either sneaks up on them. They don't want something that's gonna annoy the crap out of them, basically.
Mm-hmm.
So throw that swim jig where you're gonna throw it. Your spinner baits, your big annoying baits in the early spring, the pre-spawn. Throw that swim jig. It's a little less intrusive. It's a little quieter. It's kind of like you. Quiet.
Silence. But shad colors out deep, in my opinion. Up shallow, I throw a lot. Well, I throw shad and bluegill.
I like it.
But out deep, it's just a
for,
shad thing for me.
For me, with swim jig, it comes down to 3 basic colors: shad, white chartreuse, pro blue, whatever you want to call it, green pumpkin, bluegill color. If it's dirtier water, I want the black and blue. And again, like I said earlier, I'm shaking the crap out of it. But I throw mine on 50-pound braid. That's the big difference. Same rod, same reel. We throw it on different line. And I'll throw it on that braid. I like that bite.
But you'll start throwing it on fluorocarbon next year or the year after.
Maybe. I threw it on fluorocarbon for probably the last.
I threw it on braid like for a year or so too.
So
that's what you're talking about. We overthink stuff.
I threw it on.
It comes through grass good.
Oh, I know. But that braid, for me, it's the bite. When they hit it on that braid, it's like a lightning bolt through your rod, and it's just awesome. That's my favorite part of the day is when one eats it. So
okay, let's get this
summertime crap over.
Okay,
with.
2 more things I'll show you. One is the wacky rig. I've been catching a lot of nice fish on a wacky rig. A lot of people know about a wacky rig. This is a VMC weedless Neko hook. This has been my favorite wacky rig hook for multiple years now. A size 1 or a 1/0, and this is a 5-inch Berkeley Max Scent General June bug or green pumpkin. Great bait. Fishing around the outside grass, you can get out on those points and just let it fall real slow. It works. It's neutral. You can skip it underneath stuff. Just a great bait all around. And with this bait, the last thing I'll talk about, I got more to talk about, but we'll just cut it off right here. The Ned rig. I had to break this thing out yesterday. I haven't fished this since I was up at Mille Lacs catching those big old smallies with Ron. But this right here.
Does that still got smally teeth marks on it?
No. This is just largemouth teeth marks. Get some more slack here. I've been taking this and putting a little Max Scent General on there. You can just take a 5-inch Max Scent General, cut it in half, and put it on the back of there. Where's those? Hand me those. Yeah. So Berkeley just came out with. They're actually Ned baits. What are they called?
Little
General.
Not little, but little.
Lil.
Lil.
Yeah, a little sexy thing. Shout out to Chris Grow. He sent these to me. So here's the full-size Max Scent General, and there's a little. Basically, you can get the same thing out of a full-size. Just cut it in half.
It's 7 centimeters, by the way.
7 centimeters. I don't know what the other one is. Oh, let's see.
2.75 inches.
This is actually 5 inches. So it's a little more than half. But whatever. Ned rig. One thing I will tell you, and the reason that I haven't fished the Ned rig that much is they get hung up a ton if you use the traditional Z-Man mushroom head. The best head that I have found, and if you guys have got a better one, let me know. But this is made by Hayabusa. This is their easy brush jig. It's a little ball head, and you probably can't see it, but there's 4 strands of.
Does that help?
Yeah, it does. See that little fishing? It's like a mono weed guard. There's 4 strands, so they're separated in 2. There's 2 on each side. It's just enough to help it deflect through that cover.
There it is.
There it is.
Right there.
Yeah, so you can see that. This little jig right here.
That's pretty sexy.
It's good. It's the best one I've found.
That's why I don't throw it. I get hung up. I lost probably a dozen of them in 2-3 days.
Yeah, but I usually throw a shaky head. But I learned the power of the Ned rig up there in Mille Lacs. I mean, you got to throw a Ned rig up there because they don't like a shaky head quite as much.
I need to get up there.
But anyway, this is the Hayabusa. It's called an easy brush jig. I think they got them on Tackle Warehouse. But the shaky head or the little Ned rig, you get a ton of bites on this. It's just a great way to catch fish. And you can magnum size it too. You can move up to the bigger size shaky head and you can throw a full size, like a full size young jinger or a general on there if you want to catch some bigger fish. And we'll leave it at that.
Catch up on some comments here.
Honorable mention, power worm.
Oh, good Lord. I'm breaking stuff over here. Thank God it's already broken. Trailer on a peanut butter and jelly jig. Pocket crawl or pocket chunk. Pocket chunk. My regular size. They have a senior and a junior. Green pumpkin.
I like a rage crawl a lot.
Fair enough. Uh-oh. Wrong button. We're just catching up on comments, guys. My fat fingers don't work all the time.
Oh, Jeremiah wants to know how is the fishing on Pickneyville this time of year? It's about 30 minutes from me, and go fish it. I don't know if you saw that video I did over there not too long ago. I know it was springtime. That's the only time I've ever been over there, and it's got some big fish in it, man. They're chunky, they're fat. I almost went over there yesterday because I drove all the way to Peabody Kings River wildlife area over there in New Athens, Illinois. There's like strip pits over there. I drove all the way over there, hour and 40 minutes, and the road was closed into the park. It said road under construction. So I'm like, really? I started looking around for other lakes in the area, and I went to Baldwin Lake. It's a power plant lake. Ton of bait fish. Probably got a lot of good fish in it, bass. I caught some fish. I'll have a little video coming out. It was a fun day. I learned a lot. I did catch a decent fish there at the end of the day, but my next trip was gonna be to go in Pickneyville City Lake.
I think Dave answered.
Yeah, Dave, man, that's his stomping grounds. He knows all that stuff over there.
Hey, shout out Ken. 9'6", 5'1", big fish. Great job. Bleeding right now. Got some more fish to weigh. 100% proven for him. Good deal. Like to hear those.
Good job, man. I think that's the first time anybody's ever been fishing a tournament listening to us. I know Hammy Hamilton over there at Fish a Cedar. He's been out there night fishing, listening to me and DeRosa while we were on here. Uncle Ron.
Yeah, you're right. 100%.
You get more finessey though.
I keep fishing around you.
Yeah,
I keep getting
I'm
more
rubbing off on
finessey.
you a little bit. You got one of the best hook sets in the Midwest. I think you and Jerry are the two people the people that I fish with. You and Jerry have the best.
Well, if you remember a couple years back, I about took your head off with the old frog. Juice, all about confidence. I like that a lot, Jeremiah. But for me personally, it just gives it too much lift. If I rig it sideways, it's great. It's a lot of action. It does.
I like the spicy beaver. I caught a lot of fish at Lake of the Ozarks last year in a BFL with the spicy beaver on the back of a 1/2-ounce jig.
And I'm a cheap butt too, so those reaction innovations are not cheap for me.
That does tear up a little bit.
Yeah, and that's what I'm getting at.
Yeah.
It versus what I'm throwing here. This is a Z-Crawl by Zoom, which they're not cheap, but they're fairly cheap and they're readily available. I can't get spicy beavers unless I order them. So,
but you're right, a great trailer.
Definitely great trailer.
Andy's out, man. Appreciate you
3:30 alarm. Yeah, I don't envy you on that one at all.
Appreciate you staying with us this.
Do we want to do a little bit more, or we need to get off here?
You guys want to? We can go into a little bit of late summer into fall stuff if anybody's interested.
Let's do some prep for fall.
Prep for fall. Yeah.
Prep for fall. I got 2 baits, so mine should be fairly quick, but we've only been on here for an hour and 53 minutes. But like 5 or 10 minutes of that was technical difficulty.
Yeah, that's true. It's bad internet.
So
Tom says there used to be smallmouth in Baldwin.
Really?
I saw the sign. It said, I saw the sign. That's a song in it. Opened up my mind. I saw the sign. It did say smallmouth and said largemouth. There we go. Live in Missouri wants to see some topwaters.
All right. Well, there it is. It's coming up. Oh, frog. Launch Frog by Scum Frog. PSA. don't see you do it. I learned this a handful of years ago. You guys ever have problems with your frog legs sticking together? Getting all nasty and knotted up in your box?
Mm-hmm.
Baby powder.
Good tip.
Now, don't go like crazy with it like I did, but baby powder in your frog box. Gabe's got his frog box sitting right here. If you throw a little bit of baby powder in there, it keeps all those legs from getting all tangled up and nasty. This frog's been through the gauntlet, and the legs still look perfect on it because they haven't been all matted up. And you throw your frog in there half wet and leaks everywhere, then you get rusty hooks, and nobody likes rusty hooks. But that's why if you can see the color on this frog, it's kind of dull and dingy. As soon as that frog hits the water, it'll go back to its normal color. All that baby powder will rub off. But so top water, I'm getting ready for this. I'm ready for those first couple cool nights, and those fish start pushing up into that grass, and the lakes fall out a little bit more. But one of my go-tos, and I honestly, guys, I don't have a go-to brand of frog. I really like Spro. I really like the new Scum. They came out with this, I think, last year, the Scum Frog, the launch frog. I really like this one. And for me, I don't know if you can see on my hat here, but you see how those hooks are angled up? And you see what that does? That puts it right in the roof of their mouth.
Mm-hmm.
And for me, the big thing about frogs, and I know Randy Blockett, I know you don't follow him anymore, but Randy Blockett made a post about, and I haven't read or watched his article, but about making frogs softer. I think he was like boiling them or something. But for me, when I get a frog out of the box, the first thing I do is I push on the back and see how pliable the rubber or the material is, because I want something that's going to push down really easy so I can get really good hook penetration. And then I'll also bend the hooks up if they're tucked in. So that's my number one, part of my 1-2 punch going into the fall. And
so colors,
man, I keep it simple: black, white, bluegill. That's it. Yeah. I wish they would stop making 75,000 colors of frogs and getting me all confused online. But there's some really pretty ones out there, but some dark color, some light color, and something that's bluegill color or red bottom.
This is the Super NATO frog. I mean, I don't have the legs on there. I tore the legs on there, but he's talking about colors. You don't need all that on a frog. That's what you
paint
need.
That sucker white or black.
This is for you and me and all the 100 other people that walk through the store, and that's for the fish. Now, you will get a little bit of side flash, maybe, depending on some frogs roll a little bit more.
Depends on what you're throwing them in. If you're throwing them in a thick mat, I don't think it really matters.
No, it definitely doesn't matter.
I will say, shout out Taco Warehouse. I'm wearing their hat, but shout out Taco Warehouse because they put the color of the bottom of the frog on their website, and I absolutely love that because I cannot stand when that's all I see of a frog on a website is the top.
It does you no good.
It does me no good because I don't care what the top of the frog looks like. It's sticking out of the water the whole time.
Now look, this frog here, this is snag proof. I think this is the ish frog.
Is that the poppin' fatty?
Nah, it's
or just the fatty.
It's just the ish fat frog. I think it's
fat
called.
Frog. That's right.
Yeah,
PHAT.
This is a great frog. This is a great color. This is called Cali. Okay, black on the bottom for the most part. It's got that little bit of yellow on the sides. One thing I like about this frog, you got that yellow head, right? When you're way out on the mat, you can see that little yellow head out there. It's like a float, like a strike indicator on if you're a fly fisherman or if you're a bobber fisherman. You can see that fluorescent yellow head in that mat, because sometimes you'll lose your frog, especially if you're fishing like a brown frog or something that's, bullfrog color, something that's green.
Even at that, when that fish blows up on it and he misses it and that frog comes back up to the top, the worst thing you could do is jerk. If you twitch that frog one or two more times, I can almost guarantee he's going to eat that frog.
Right. And if you don't see this yellow after a blow up, he's probably got it in his mouth.
He's probably got it or it's under the mat. One of the two.
It's true.
And it's not going to do you any good under the mat.
I was being optimistic.
Yeah.
But black body, black belly. And this is one of my 3 favorite frogs. I've caught a ton of fish on this, have a lot of confidence on this. I do have a little rattle in this. You can't really hear it. There it is. So that's something that I'll do. I've got This is a KVD frog, sexy frog. That's another one of my favorite frogs.
If you guys want to rattle a bait up, take a glass worm rattle, something like that. Just shove it up in the hook cavity.
Got to be careful with the glass though, because you can break them. Because that glass will hit the hook. It's happened a couple times.
Fair point.
Sometimes you can use BBs.
We got to take care of the fish. We don't want them getting glass.
Right. Or if you reach down there and next thing you get ripped open. But you can do that, or you can use BBs. You can use a plastic rattle. You can shove BBs up in here pretty easy. Get you 3 or 4 or 5 of them. It does a couple things. It adds noise. Fish can hear that, and it also adds weight, and it's going to push down on that mat a little bit more, and it's going to draw the fish's attention. They can find it better in the mat. So that's just a couple things. But if you put 4 or 5 BBs in a frog and you want to walk it in open water, it's a little bit more difficult. It's got a lot more drag. If you put like 10 BBs in there, it's going to sink. So you kind of got to have your mat frogs, and you got to have your open water or sparse grass frogs.
You can use I've used like old pieces of plastic. We all have laying on the bottom of the boat, just junk plastic. You can shove a piece of like a end of a finesse worm up in there. Adds just a little bit of, like you said, casting distance and mat weight. Because I like a frog that when I'm fishing a big thick mat, I like it to get low.
You can put all kinds of weird stuff in a frog's booty.
I wasn't gonna go there. It is getting late. It is getting late. We are now sticking. Never mind. Never mind.
So the KVD sexy frog is one that that's one of my favorite frogs for sure. It's actually got a pretty good hook in it. It collapses really well. And
I had to sneak one out of your box.
That was in my hand too.
Oh, man.
Go ahead.
Hold on. 1, 2, 3. Ready?
The Spro Poppin' Frog is a great one.
Now, for me, if the mat is like really thick, nasty on top, I'm not throwing a popping frog. I'm going to throw a regular nose frog. I call it regular nose. I don't know what they call it. For me, the popping frog gets just too much junk caught up in it. And then if you notice, what color is that? Has nothing to do with that or that. That is for you and me out there.
See it
in TV.
Looking right at it.
I like colorblind. I can't see the red, but I like the orange ones. Something for us to visualize on.
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to do like a frog tutorial, but there's a lot of good frogs out there. This Gavacho frog, if you guys are new to fishing frogs and you're having problems walking a frog, this thing walks like no other. It's probably the easiest walking frog that I've ever fished.
And it's already got stuff coming out of its butt.
Yeah, it's a popping frog. It's got 3 legs on it. It's got bigger hooks, so you got to jack them. But the hook angle's nice on it. They're pointed up like that snag-proof launch frog. So this is a really good one.
You trim your legs on your frogs?
Yeah, my rule of thumb is, most of the time I do. My rule of thumb is I like to hang the skirt material down, and I like to trim it about at the eyes. That's a little bit long, but I'll trim it about to the eyes. So, most of my frogs have been trimmed. Some of them are not. What do you think? Does it make a difference to you? Or
I've had it work both ways. Like this launch frog, completely different than a Spro frog. I don't know if you can tell on. Yeah, definitely. Look how much thicker that the launch frog is versus the Spro. Again, profile. That's when that sets on that mat, it all spreads out and it gives it a bigger. In my opinion, it gives it a bigger look to it. For me cutting, it just depends on the situation. I've got frogs that have little bitty, half-inch legs that just stick out. And a lot of times for me, it all is dictated by the bite. If they're missing the frog or just pulling it under the mat, I'm cutting them legs off. That's the first thing that I do is I chop them all off. So I have a lot of frogs that probably are ruined because of that. But you can always tie, if you got skirt material, you can always tie a skirt and shove it in there.
Yeah, I did a little video a while back about how to replace the legs on a frog. It's super simple. So this is a launch frog as well. And the launch frog does not walk very well in open water. It's horrible. So I hold yours up. So that's a launch frog too. That's how much I had to cut off to get this thing to walk. And I also tapered this. You can see how it's kind of flared. That to me, that helps it walk a little bit better. And you can also cut This is kind of controversial, but you can cut one side a little bit shorter.
I was just going to say
it
that.
does make a difference. I mean, Brian Thrift will say it doesn't, but
what does he know?
Matt Airy will say it does, or vice versa. And I think it does. One pushes a little more, and it works. So that's one way you can get your frogs to walk a little bit better. Is just to cut that leg material back. And like you said, if you're missing bites, chop her down a little bit. I mean, I've got that one's even shorter.
I got some that are like half of that. It's crazy. So,
yeah, a ton of frogs. The Terminator. I should have used baby powder on that. That's actually I've caught a lot of fish on that. Terminator popping frog. That's a really good one, guys. I mean, I like that. They make a full size one. You know, this is actually the large one, clear color. All these frogs are good. The Booyah popping pad crasher. Some people like that.
That's good.
It's decent.
If you guys are out there and you don't know what frogs, and we may do like a whole frog segment later this fall, but it's all about the keel for walking it. If you want a frog that we talked about on the swim baits, the swim baits. If you want a frog that walks really well, it's got to have like a boat. It's got to have that keel so it can do this. If it's got like that launch frog, I mean, it's flat across the bottom. There's nothing there. That's all flat spot right there. It's made to sit on top of that mat in the thickest, nastiest, gnarliest cover and just.
Yep, that's a mat frog.
That's definitely a mat frog.
It's got those thick legs too, which has a lot more drag. It doesn't want to walk.
Nope.
But it's got a heck of a hook in it.
Yep. One thing that, like I said, every frog that when it comes out of the box, especially these, and that one, I don't think I know Gabe probably does this too, but I take all those hooks. For me personally, I'd rather pull crap off of my frog because the hooks are catching something than miss a fish. So for me, I bend the hooks out just a little bit. Get your needle nose in there. I'm not saying get them out, stand them straight up in the air, but for me, it's
32nd of an inch.
Getting them off of the body of because if you see that hook is dead nuts on the body of the bait. I like to have it just kicked out just a little bit.
Yeah. So this frog is kicked out a little bit.
Yep. Perfect.
I don't know if you guys ever seen this. This is a snag proof frog. I think it's called the Wobbletron.
You're not throwing that in the thick mat.
I've thrown it. It doesn't come through grass very good. It does not come through grass very good.
It's
got too much metal. This gets grass all in it. But it's got the bootlegs on it. It's crazy looking. So outside grass line, yes. Inside grass line, no bueno.
No bueno. The word of the night.
Well, let's wrap this up. This has been pretty good.
This has been awesome. Thank you guys. I mean, I saw quite a few guys on here tonight. We get to see how many people are on here with us, and just for us two bass heads from Southeast Missouri, and all you guys want to listen to us, that hits me here.
That's good stuff, man. Ken, I think he won.
Did he?
Yeah, I got to go back up here.
I saw something.
So we got this one, 7 keepers, 710, pretty fair for Norris in Tennessee. We are happy. I had several guys at the weigh-in watching the guys.
Favorite fall technique is a jerk bait.
Dude, I love jerk baits. We will definitely talk about jerk baits as it gets closer.
Took me forever, Ray. I'm with you, brother. I am so with you.
Yeah, that foot side's good.
No, he's talking about finesse.
Oh.
Don't worry about it. Looking forward to Cedar Lake tomorrow evening. Anyone else going to be out there? Jealous?
Hashtag jealous. No, I want to get out there. I'm gonna go someday after work because since the Wednesday nighters are over, I've been jonesing on Wednesday.
We had a derby yesterday over at Little Grassy, and shout out to my dad who won with a behemoth 612. I'm not going to tell you guys what he caught it on, but it was a big.
Yeah, 612. That's a good one.
That's a good one for over there.
Tom said he transferred some smallmouth from Powerton to Baldwin to see if they would take. He's got some pictures of some nice ones me and my buddy Jimmy D have caught there. That's cool, man. That lake has got enough bait in it to.
They could take the bait out there
to
and
groom
put it in a Kentucky
millions
lake.
of fish. Man's pygmy frog. I don't know if I have or not. There's so many you know, Rich that was on here, he's a frog geek. You know, he fishes a lot of different frogs, and I went too far down the frog road. I mean, my take on frogs is kind of like my take on a lot of stuff. I'll play around until I find a couple that I really like, and then I don't really go much further than that. Ray says cornstarch.
Saw that.
That's good.
Good tip.
Yeah. And brass tube rattles.
Yep.
Thanks, man. That's good. That's a good recommendation. See, it's cool. You got people from different areas and they went down different paths and they found different things.
You got to think. Some guys think throwing a frog in a brush pile is how you fish a frog, and I don't hardly ever throw a fish in a brush pile. I throw it thickest, nastiest, sloppy mat that I can find.
A lot of guys skip them under docks.
Heck
too,
yeah.
you know?
I mean, I know it works. Just we don't have any docks around here to fish, except for if we would take
except this one with Karen.
Yeah,
it's Karen that lives on this one dock. I think. Let's see. Bass RX, man. Good to see you on here, dude. We're gonna shut this sucker down and make sure we didn't miss anything. Yeah, Ken, congratulations, man. That is awesome.
Chris, that's no good, brother. Fortunately, I think he was one of the ones Cedar, right? So fortunately, you can find, depending on what ramp you're putting at, you can find plenty of good areas within trolling motor range. I promise.
Yeah,
and that you actually might catch more doing that.
Pomona gets stocked a couple times a week.
Yeah, for sure.
So, all right, folks, we're out of here. Next week we have a guest already lined up. We're gonna have Matt Steffen. Matt Steffen is a Bridgeford FLW, MLF.
He's putting a lot of content out right now too.
Yeah, go check out if you haven't checked out his stuff. He does a video every day. It's a daily fishing trip, and he's got some pretty wild ideas. He's in it pretty deep, and he's got some unique ways that he rigs stuff, different baits that he uses on different techniques. And I reached out to him a couple weeks ago, and he's scheduled for next Monday. So we'll see you next Monday at 7:30, same time, same place, and we're gonna shut the sucker down. Thanks for everybody.
Don't forget to smash that thumbs up.
Yeah, leave a comment afterwards. If you guys are still hunter, leave a comment after I shut this down. Just say good show, bad show, whatever. Should talk more about frogs, but that helps. That helps me out. Helps him out. Helps
everybody out.
My kids, my dog, helps us all out. So
the fish in the pond. Don't forget about the fish.